Hey everybody, Roar the Lions UK, Matthew Turner, Ashley Soden, hopefully to be joined by Anthony Fitzpatrick in just a moment. We're getting set up, so we haven't started yet, so hey to everybody. I won't say hope you had a good weekend because I'm pretty sure I know the answer to that question, but I hope that you have all started to come up from the low which you all experienced this weekend. More on that later. How are you doing, Ash?
Better after being silent for basically like the last half an hour of our stream on a Saturday night. I'm better. I'm still pissed. I'm still pissed at some of the things. Most of all, fucking Frankie Louvu. I used to respect you. Go fuck yourself. But we're getting there. I'm out the stages of grief now. I'm still wearing the black and blue because it's a somber mood, so I felt it appropriate. But we're getting there. It's time to look forward now, not behind.
Yeah, and I mean, despite us being good now and hopefully good for a while, draft stuff is still what we do best. And I say we, I just mean us as a podcast rather than us as fans. But we are
Yeah.
coming into the, I don't know, best part of our content. It may not be as highly viewed as everything else until you get to maybe draft week or just before. But in terms of the quality of content, it's coming. And it's going to be really cool, actually. The way that we've organised ourselves this year, I'm hoping that we're actually going to have a bit more for you, even as we go to our off-season format where we only have one show a week. But scouting out the players obviously does take a lot more time than just scouting a team here or there where you can watch a game or two and get a good feel for it. When it comes to individual players, obviously that is a bit more work, especially to get the scouting reviews right. I don't know whether our process is going to get any better, but there we go. Grandizer says, "What went wrong and can it be fixed?" I mean, can you fix Lady Luck? That was really well. I mean, there's a lot of things going on there, and we'll get into it. That's definitely going to be a big part of what we talk about. Because that's really the question, isn't it? And I mean, I can give you an answer of what I think now, but it's one of those things. Oh, many thanks, Carlton. Carlton Wood tipping £10, $12.28. Says if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. That sounds like a quote from something. In fact, it is in quotation marks. So if you can meet with triumph and disaster, Wimbledon. Rudyard Kipling poem. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, you, sir, are a cultured human being, much more so than I. Thank you, Carlton. Much appreciated. And I'll give you a shout out on when we go live as well. But also thank you very much as well to Kerry L, tipping $50 2 days ago. Said, thank you, Matt and Ash, for the great play-by-plays all season. It's so cool to have a Lions community across the pond. Enjoy a pint or two on me. Go Lions. #OnePride. Thank you, Kerry. That touched me more than you would know when I loaded up the software just before we went live and saw that alert. And I was like, that came off stream, but means the world to us, especially for doing that particular show that you're referencing. But I know the wider group as well. It means a lot, so thank you. Brent says, message retracted. This just because I'm a spaz. Basically, I just can't write, so I saw it was wrong, deleted it, and came back. Justin May, the rapper, says Washington chested Lions should have won it. I'm ticked off about this game. Washington deserved it. I don't know whether someone's going to disagree with me when we talk about it in a wider group, but Ash, they deserved it, right?
They did, yeah. Like Dan put it pretty much spot on in his presser earlier when he said we could, like, if we brought the B game, we would have had a chance in that game. We didn't even bring that. It was just that the only side of the ball, well, the only side of the ball that really played well was special teams, and even then, they limited our returns pretty damn well. So all sides of the ball, like special teams, get to B, defense, offense, failing grades.
Yeah.
Which is why I was just silent for that last half an hour, because I was like, usually I can sit there and I can be like, okay, this side of the world, it just needs fixed on defense, or we need to limit the turnovers on offense, but the defense held it pretty well. I had nothing. I had no fix it. I kind of still don't, because what can you do other than, get Madden Pomfrey onto the field to fix Meek's broken arm and Aiden's broken leg and that, and glad you like that reference. To fix the defense, it was the injuries like Meek, as we'll get onto in a bit. I know per se in the show, Meek breaking his arm was the straw that broke the camel's back, because and then that with what happened later in the game with Branch and Iffy being out for periods of the game, fucking having to throw Maurice Norris and Stanley Thomas Oliver into the throw and be like, go on, do your best.
Yeah.
It wasn't a recipe for success. And then that plus what happened on offense, I know I get the reasoning behind some of the decisions. Again, as we'll come on to, cough, the third and one empty play. We got too clever for our own good. We did not treat them with the respect we should have done. And we got pummeled. And I hope they fucking go on and win the thing, because then when I hate the fucking Eagles. Honestly, I know they will probably say this on the show. I want a Commanders Bills Super Bowl. I cannot fucking be asked with another Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl.
Oh, Eagles Chiefs is worth of both worlds, and Commanders versus Bills would give me something to be happy about. Whoever wins, I would be delighted for either team. Like, if you have a look at teams that have maybe in some really backward way had it worse than the Lions in history, it might be the Bills, because they've been good. Like, they've been really good. But when we look at how shit things have been for us in the past 2 seasons and the way things ended, imagine going to 4 straight Super Bowls and losing. Like,
yeah. I mean, to add on to that,
can't even imagine doing that.
Yeah. Or, obviously they got knocked out by the Bills, but the Ravens are getting there as well in a way, because they have the most wins in a 7-year stretch to have not won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's rough. It really is. Just want to thank Bailey as well for his message. Said, we'll say it again, guys. Really appreciate the content from this year. I will be checking in with my draft takes, as I know you guys put in the work too. Hope your Monday has been as good as it can be. Bailey is a Bears fan. Incredibly gracious, could be dancing on our grave, as a lot of our NFC North fans have been doing. I know that a lot of hate's come out for
packing company, the fucking cunts.
Well, I was more going to say that around the league there's been a little bit of blowback against a vocal minority of Lions fans, and I don't know, I think it very much is a vocal minority, and it's weird me saying it, because I was having a go at the Eagles fans for saying that it was a minority of their fans which are aggressive and pummel people within an inch of their life in their stadium and what have you, but I don't think there's that many bad Lions fans, but they just shout the loudest. And to have all the blowback of people disliking that, like, I really don't get it. Also, like, when the Kansas City game was the most watched game in ESPN history, there was lots of comments about, must be like a rage-hating audience against Kansas City. And now I'm thinking, is that what happened with the Lions? Because we kept breaking records in that respect of Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, like record audiences here. And there was lots of chat about the fact that we were a really exciting team to watch, that the neutrals were behind us. Before the game, 50% of America wants the Lions to win. And then when you look back on that, it's like, actually, with all the blowback that's come, has it just been a rage-hating thing as well? And I don't really understand where that would have come from, but it seems apparent that there's a large contingent of people who really don't like the team, and maybe they've just been silent all this time until they can dance on the grave. I don't know, but
it's partly that, but it's also partly the narrative about us that has hung around us for a while, but really started up about 13 months ago. Started by the Vikings and Stafford, with the whole Kirby Joseph's dirty player, then they extend that out. The amount of times I've seen it this year, like, I've had to leave 4 NFL Discords over this past year because people kept saying, about Bountygate and that, although Dan Campbell's just doing Bountygate 2.0. And I just got pissed off having to correct people. So I had to leave Discords, which I'm usually very like vocal in Discord, like our Discord special.
You're no
Everyone's just
stranger
going
to
in.
having to go to bat for your team.
Yeah, and for me to give up and just be like, "Nah, I'm out."
Yeah, that's quite something. But hey, there we go. I'm amazed you're in 4 NFL Discords. I couldn't hack that, if I'm honest. That's far too much for me.
I'm in. Let's have a look. So I've only seen ours. So I'm counting ours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, so I've been in 10.
How? Oh god, that sounds so awful. Like, I love Discord, but I can only really keep up with a few communities. I'm in ours, the Draft Network, and Luke G, and then the Pride of Detroit one.
Yeah.
And then I'm in Check the Mic, but I barely actually look at it. I'm in one which is a spin-off from the Draft Network called Good Ball Knowers, which really doesn't have much of it anymore in there. And then I'm in a few others that are non-Lions related. But like keeping up with our own and maybe the Draft Network one is so much. I mean, how do you have any time for anything else?
ADD. And not being able to sleep, the amount of times you probably woke up in the morning like, why the fuck has Ash posted 5 links at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Bailey says, let me put it this way, people tend to not hate teams that are rubbish. Once you become good, people want to tear you down, part of your success. I mean, I guess the 10-2's doing a little bit of work there with the Cleveland Browns, because no one hated them until Deshaun went there, and then suddenly they're still shit, but people hate them. Which is quite a nice tonic. I actually think the narrative around the Cleveland Browns has really kind of renewed my hope for the world, because they were one of those teams that was like everyone's second team. They started to get good and people still continue to like them for a while, and then they went all in on him, and immediately overnight everyone was like, fuck them. And that really actually gave me some faith. Adam Gilchrist, our friendly Packers fan as well, is in there saying, yeah, I feel the injury just caught up with you guys in the end. You still had an incredible season. Also, I know it sounds weird, but I feel like your team's more suited to a 6-7 seed. If you mean stylistically in terms of being potentially a better away team than home team, that's absolutely borne out in our record this year. Unbeaten at home, but lost 3 games. Sorry, unbeaten away, but lost 3 games at home. I do feel like we thrive on the villain mentality, and that absolutely comes with being an away team.
Yeah, it also partly it's the way, as you say, the way we're built. We're a run the ball, control time of possession, that kind of team, and that bears out better away, because it just I don't know why, but it just does, doesn't it? You think about it, because that's what you call it when you run block about your road grade, don't you? It's just one of them. But hey ho, we'll be we'll be back again. Obviously, Dan predicted it last year, and I did get tagged quite a few times by different fans when we lost, because they said, "Oh yeah, you're not going to be back here," and I was like, "Well, we could be," and then they instant like yelp, whoop like that. I've just bookmarked it. I'll come back to it next year,
Right, Ant said, "Get started without me, and I may join you later." So,
okay.
I don't think we're going to be joined by anyone else. I hoped we would be. I'm going to read the thing that Steve put in just very briefly at the start of the show. Yeah. Guys, if you've got... Adam just said, is there a part of you wishing you had an outdoor stadium or ... Not really.
No.
I do think, obviously, if you do, especially if you are a northern team, it does give you a slight advantage, especially over those that don't come from that climate. But I don't know, like
adds more variance. It adds more variance, which would have helped the Commanders in this situation, in my opinion.
I think it would have done too. And I mean, I don't know, if you're doing it for like a 0.5% win point in your favour, generally speaking, fine. But as a fan experience, it's just not as good for me. You right?
Yeah, true. Yeah. Just accidentally knocking over my mic.
I saw it. Film Geek 520 said, I'm reminded of a quote by Megamind of all things, that's the thing about failure, you get to learn from your mistakes. We've never been the number 1 seed in the modern era with a bye week, now we know.
Yes, 100%.
TJ said this loss reinforces the SOL narrative for a lot of fans. It was all over social media within minutes of the loss. Well,
don't
no, I mean,
me.
but we don't even have to. We don't even have to be like that. So I welcome the SOL fans showing themselves. One, because I don't have to give a shit, and two, you're telling me who to not give a shit about. And you know what? They lie in your midst, and you don't need them. So the sooner you know about them, the better. Frankly, but there we go. Right, should we do this?
Yeah.
Any questions, you guys? Then get them in. You know what to do. We're here all night, so all right, here we go.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Royal Alliance UK podcast, episode 324, Lost Command. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Ashley Soden. How you doing, man?
Obviously been better, but I've come out the realm of darkness that I was in for the 24 hours or so after the game. I've ate my feelings in chicken nuggets live on stream, and then yesterday a nice Domino's pizza and some chicken strips, and now I've come out the other side of the Aaron Rodgers' favourite kind of holiday, a rejuvenated man looking forward instead of backwards.
That'll be the best weekend. I hope that all of you are along in your stages of recovery, because grieving can take some time, and I think Dan put it very well when he said he's been through the feel like I've lost a relative moment, which is very on the nose. So yeah, hope that you're all somewhat through the grieving process. Just before we get started with this, just want to shout out a few people who off the air have done some lovely things for us. So Carlton Wood has tipped $12 and has said, if you can meet triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, which is lovely. Thank you, Carlton. It's from Rudyard Kipling. Apparently, I'm not cultured enough to have read that, but there we go. And Kerry L says, thank you, Matt and Ash, for the great play-by-plays all season. It's so cool to have a Lions community across the pond. Enjoy a pint or two on me. Go Lions, #OnePride, tipping $50. Thank you very, very much. That was lovely to walk into this evening as we started doing this. So thank you very much. We are, of course, going to be reviewing the Washington game, but frankly, I don't have the grit mentality of Dan Campbell where he wants to burn the game into his eyes so that he doesn't ever want to feel like this again. I also don't want to feel like this again, but I really don't want to watch the game back. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a kind of holistic abridged version of the show where we talk about the big moments and what have you, and then we're going to talk about the rest of the divisional games before talking about what comes next, and that might be doing our picks for the championship games, because we're not going to have a show on Thursday now, as well as just where do we go from here in terms of being a Lions fan. And we need you guys for that. So if you've got any questions, please do get them in as well. Anthony Fitzpatrick's going to be in the building in just a moment because I've seen him come in. So I'll do the preamble now and then we'll be back. With many thanks to Jacobo Brisket Bowl subscribing with Prime for their 14th month. Says great season, unfortunate outcome. Thanks ever so much for your efforts. And welcome. How are you, man?
As good as one can be on a Monday like this, but hey ho, we move on. You're in the grief stage at the moment. We'll get through the other 7 phases at some stage.
Yeah. Perfectly said. You put out a few really good messages on Twitter, which have been liked and reshared many, many times, and that very much exemplified how I was feeling in that moment. So well done for capturing the voice of the Lions Nation as it is. I'm going to quickly go through the preamble and then we'll get into this. So please do come and join our Discord channel. Links in the live chat right now. It's in the audio description of the podcast. I know it's stupid to say because we're out now, but being with the season done, we're into off-season mode now. And what that means for us is that we're going to be absolutely hammering the draft content. And we're never going to get off this. Partly because we have the best college show on the internet, and partly because we've got a group of dedicated people outside of the people who do the college show. We have the best draft coverage on the internet in terms of who we are and the fact that we're not full-timers, and we put out some fantastic stuff. So as a show, we're only going to elevate from here, and it's going to be really exciting. So come and join the Discord. The way that we do things this year might be slightly different. So if you're in there, you'll see exactly what's going on as it happens and maybe even can contribute to what we do. So that's going to be really cool. Click the link. We'd love to see you there. College Football Podcast is going to be back this week because the Natty is tonight, and it's going to be a great game. I mean, it may not be the teams that a lot of people wanted in this, yourself included, I think, potentially, but a Natty only comes around once a season, and, it's always a spectacle.
I mean, this is the game that only Michigan fans didn't really want. In my case, I've been calling both teams fraudulent for years, so gonna eat crow on one of them. But yeah, we're all Notre Dame fans tonight, so hopefully they win. But yeah, that's tonight. We'll be on about that, and then Shrine Bowl starts on Saturday, so it's Shrine Bowl roster evaluation this week as well. So like you said, it's draft season now. It's all going to happen very quickly. So yeah, there's a lot to go through.
I have to say that I don't have any rooting interest in this, but I would like Notre Dame to win for one reason and one reason alone, and it's because every time I hear Riley Leonard's name, I hear someone say, basically, he's not a good quarterback, he shouldn't be allowed to win. And I watch him, and I think, maybe you're not an NFL quarterback, but you're really exciting to watch sometimes, and, the way that he gets harshly dealt with, I think, by the national media, especially in terms of his draft profile. I kind of just wanted him to go and win one, especially against the powerhouse, because Ohio State is so fancied in this game that it would be great for the underdog to win again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of people are rooting that way as well. So, it's at least I am anyhow. I do not want Ohio State winning it.
Yeah. So anyway, show will be reviewing that and looking ahead to draft stuff. So that'll be on midweek, Wednesday, probably.
Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Please do like this episode, sub to the podcast, and support Lions Nation Unite in their endeavours as well. That'd be great. Otherwise, we're Twitch affiliated, YouTube monetized, tip jar down below, as quite a few people have done so far, as you've heard. So if you do enjoy the show or have enjoyed the season or want to show some love in that way, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Let's get on with some news. And the first bit is yet more injuries. One new one just a bit of news. But cornerback Amik Robertson, second play of the game, broken arm, run into by Jack Campbell. It was an absolute sickener. You could tell straight away he was in a really bad state. Had surgery yesterday. Apparently, Dan said that that Amik had texted him saying that it all went well, so that's positive. But, boys, I mean, when it came to our fragile defense, lost Carlton Davis. That was a big loss. Amik had come in and had given us not quite what Carlton would provide, but was absolutely excellent in relief. So much more than anyone could have expected. And to lose him early in this game in that way, and I mean, could put his off-season schedule in jeopardy potentially. Maybe not the start of the season because it's broken arm. That should be okay, I think. But it sucks for him, and it really hurt us in this game too.
Never known such a disparity of injuries between two sides of the football, given that they both play as hard as each. If anything, like the offense and the way it plays should get more injuries than the defense does, and it's crazy. And you say whenever you get something good on there, it gets taken away from you, and you're missing 3 starting D linemen, you're missing 2 of your main linebackers, you're missing your main corner, like everyone else is dinged up as well, and then like the one guy at corner who is playing really well and is in form, oh yeah, just break his arm and be done with it. It's there's only so much anyone can humanely overcome, and that just was kind of like the camel's back was half broken already, but that was kind of the straw that really did it in. You can't lose this many guys and so many key players, and that you bring in your depth guys in then and they're throwing on you like Jesus. So obviously I hope he's going to be fine. And the one redeeming feature about the offseason been so long is like just send these guys away, let them go home, let them get better, let them have plenty of time to heal before training camp starts, and then try again, because hopefully we should never see anything like this again.
Yeah, wasn't exactly great, was it? Like third play from scrimmage for the defense, and that happens. And yeah, you could just tell You could just tell so he'd done something. And it just hurt even more when later branching if you had to leave the games for periods of time and meant to be able to bring in Maurice Norris, we had to bring in Stanley Thomas Oliver, who, not really taking many snaps for us, and it bore fruits because of some of the stuff that happened later in the game. It was the straw that broke the camel's back in a way, and luckily the reports are that it went well and he'll be fit for OTAs, which is great because the way he played down the stretch in relief of Carlton, I know he's obviously a 2-year deal, so he'll be here next year, but he's pushing for a starting spot next year for me, even if we do bring back Carlton and that, because he can play this like he can play outside and he's the kind of player we like. So hopefully he'll come back fully fit, firing like Alex Anzalone did with his broken arm, and that secondary is a bit more stable next year because, damn, we're going to need it.
Absolutely. The other news is in the DB room as well. Ennis Rakestraw had his window open last week. We were hopeful he could come back. We could have used him, but unfortunately he was not activated off II. He did have an illness during the week, which hampered his ability to potentially have some install, given how long he'd been off. So he was not activated, and of course now his season is over like everyone else's. I don't know why I've got the elevations in there. That doesn't really help me. Otherwise, draft picks are now being set with the Lions loss. We're picking 28th in the first round, 60th, which is second rounder, and then the fourth round, it depends where the Eagles finish, apparently. There's 4 picks range that could be, and then there's a couple of other picks in the 7th as well. Jeff Risdon has said that apparently there have been 3 Lions named to the Pro Football Writers Association All-NFL team in Sewell, Joseph and Fox, and 8 to the All-NFC team, which is Goff, Gibbs, Amon-Ra, Ragnow, Sewell, Joseph, Fox and Khalif Raymond. And then for interviews, Dan Campbell has said he fully expects to lose both coordinators. Aaron Glenn is set to take second in-person interviews with the Jets tomorrow and then with the Saints on Wednesday, and Ben Johnson hasn't yet locked in his dates, but is going to take in-person interviews with the Raiders, Bears, and Jags, reportedly. That's not been definitively stated yet. So it's all happening, guys. And, 28th is not exactly the best place to pick in the first round, but Brad has proven that he can get some really good value from that sort of range. And then Lions players continuing to get some love from the national media, especially the Pro Football Writers, which potentially might be one of the more prestigious lists to get into, but maybe I'm wrong there, but I would say the writers specifically probably have to be a little bit more knowledgeable than even the TV guys, because TV is all about kind of presence as much as knowledge, right? Whereas being a writer, if people don't like your content, they can easily just not read it. So, I don't know. What do you guys think about all of that? Sorry, I know
morbid. If I'm being morbid, I don't really care anymore. It's like the amount of personal accolades I've had this year, fine, great, wonderful, fine, don't care. Just the enthusiasm is completely gone here. So, great for those guys, yada, yada, yada. But, we got a Super Bowl to go win next year now. So, let this be the year of records. Let next year be the year of silverware. But, kind of done with it outside of that.
Yeah, that's fair. I know obviously most people would feel the same, but the unfortunate thing is with the way the anachronistic way the NFL is, these kind of things do have bearings on contracts for players. Obviously, like for the Pro Bowl for Kirby, the fact he didn't make that meant that his elevated like sort of little bit of pay that the Players Association gives him at the end of the year. He could have got a lot more if he made the Pro Bowl. Obviously didn't. It'll be a nice little bonus for them. They get a little bit more silverware for themselves. But yeah, next year it is about collective success. I know the team has always preached collective success over individual, but it's nice to see at least it's getting the recognition. I think with the All NFL team, the only team to get more was the Denver Broncos. And I think like 2 or 3 of them were their offensive linemen. I know Quinn Miners made it. And then we led the NFC in picks for the All NFC team. So that's good news. At least we got that kind of recognition. As for our picks, yeah, ours are set now, 28th in each round. The 4th depends on the Eagles because I think we got that back last year as part of the Manu trade. So we lost our own kind of thing. We got theirs. So that'll be borne out in the next couple of weeks. So obviously, if they win the Super Bowl, it'd be pick 132 and then comp will be added on. So that'll go back a bit. But if they lose, I think it will be 129. So it's barely any difference really, but still bearing fruit. And then the obvious one, the other ones we've got, I think, one's from the Bucks, one's from the Jets via a load of teams. So those have already been locked in for at least since last week. As for the interviews, to be expected, though, if Josiah Anderson is correct and it is the Bears, then Ben Johnson, you have suddenly turned from one of our heroes to one of our most hated people within the space of a week, which, is definitely not an arc you were going to go on, considering things. As for AFG, makes sense it's those two. The team that drafted him and he got all pro for, and the team he was a DB's coach for. Complete senses. Those are the two that he's sort of narrowed it down to. And with the news that Lance Newmark, who people might remember as our director of pro personnel last year, before the Commanders went and sniped him to become their assistant GM, with him now suddenly having an interview for the Jets GM job. Them, Las Vegas, it seems like he's going to be the GM for one of our coordinators if everything goes the way I think it will.
Yeah, so a lot of the coverage I've been reading has said that Aaron Glenn is the first choice of both teams, both the Jets and the Saints, which is a remarkable turn-up for the books, I think, especially considering we went into the season last year with people saying went into this season saying if Glenn doesn't have a good year, maybe he'll get fired. And now suddenly he's the first choice potentially of 2 different teams, whereas Ben Johnson apparently is the first choice of 3 different teams. But it looks like the Bears are becoming the favoured people. I think that he is becoming a large betting favourite for the Bears now. I think minus 300 or something. So, yeah.
You got to feel sorry for Aaron. That's like been given different forms of hepatitis and asked which one you want. Like those 2 teams, the Jets and the Saints. Like, which illness would you more prefer than the other? Because those 2 just poisoned franchises. At least Ben's going to go somewhere where there's optimism for the future potentially. But it's.
I mean, just on the face of it, I realise that Jets and Saints is like 2 different types of illness, but the Jets might be gonorrhea and the Saints are AIDS. So, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Take the one that can at least be cured.
Exactly.
Christ.
Like, at least the Jets. Like, honestly, I know I do like the fact to put the Jets first because, even though you're having to put up with Rudy Johnson, you've got all that Aaron Rodgers drama.
Oh, no, he's not going to do
They've
anything
got
for
pieces.
4 years, at least, because he'll be busy.
True. Yeah, true. Very true. But at least they've got peace on that defense to go with, entering this year, what was seen as the best outside corner duo source.
What is it? Are you going to say that you got Jermaine Johnson, so he's going to be great? I know what you're saying. I know what you think.
Since you mentioned Jermaine Johnson,
I know how you think.
Yeah, he's got a really good young edge rusher to work with as well. Yeah, very true, very true.
And a really good quarterback.
Yeah, there we go.
And a really good quarterback. Yeah, good old quarterback. Exactly.
Do you mean future free agent Jordan Travis?
I mean, in theory, we could lose a hell of a lot of people here because I know Hank's in the final 2 for the Seahawks OC job. Scotty Montgomery's, apparently on the verge going to the Patriots potentially.
Is he?
What? I haven't seen that.
Yeah, that was what. It's hot take Mike earlier, but he wrote that Mike Vrabel really potentially wants Scotty in New England as his offensive coordinator. Mike Payton wrote a story about it earlier.
That means it's definitely fucking happening.
Well, no, because apparently his source is a Patriots beat writer, but Vrabel apparently really wants Scotty Montgomery in New England. So,
that if you told me that,
I think we can refuse that because is it not a lateral move from head coach to coordinator, or is it?
No, the assistant head coach title has no bearing on it because he's not an OC. If he gets an offensive coordinator interview, we cannot block it, unfortunately. It's
that's another one
game
that could be had.
Stuff.
Yeah.
As I was saying, if you told me Vrabel wanted one of our coaches to join him in New England, it wouldn't have been Montgomery. It would have been the one he's actually worked with before, the one that I'm kind of scared.
Or is it Terrell Williams? It's one or the other.
Terrell Williams, which is why
it's his OC.
But it's his DC. It's DC.
I don't know. Anyhow, he wants one of them.
Our resident Bears
Might be
friend
Scotty.
Bailey's just said Raiders, Jags, and Bears are all also terribly run. Both of them are going to horrific places. And I think that's very well said. But, these organisations, if they were well run, would have retained their staff. So, it's kind of by definition in a way.
A big PSA for Bears fans: if you do hire him, then I suggest you all go through your Twitter histories and start deleting all the tweets you made about him when your defense kept shutting him down, because I saw a lot of mean tweets about Ben from them, so they're going to have to whitewash their history a hell of a lot now that they're all going, yay, best offensive coordinator in the league. I've got a lot of bookmark tweets from guys like that who made fun of him, so your receipts will be cashed, and if they're deleted, you will still be humiliated.
I'm absolutely fascinated. In some really perverted way, I kind of want to see Ben Johnson go to the Bears to see if it works. Because if what we said, I don't know whether it was a universal opinion, but it's a widely held opinion that Aaron Glenn is going to be the best of the two as a head coach. Yeah, I want to see how it goes with Ben as a head coach, because if he does fail at the Bears, and I don't even know what it will say about Ben Johnson. If Ben Johnson fails at the Bears, is it going to say anything about him, or is it going to say everything about the Bears? It's like Tottenham Hotspur. Is it Ange Postecoglou's fault? Is it Jose Mourinho's fault? Is it any other manager in history that they've had in the last 20 years? Or could it be that there's something else wrong with that team? Do you know what I mean?
The money grubbing owner.
At least Spurs actually look relatively competitive for sometimes. Every couple of years they make it to the League Cup final or something.
Oh, look at us! We made it to the League Cup final. They were 3-0 down to a team which should go down. So, whatever. Anyway, Bailey says, I've never written a mean tweet ever, and there are some great fans on every fan base. Yeah, but that's because we're a cunt.
Oh, cheers! Shall I just rename myself that, the resident cunt? Just is that it now?
It's the Australian meaning of it. It's a term of endearment.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Or the Gen Z way now, which is it's serving cunt, which is actually a good thing.
Sorry, it really tickled me. I love you. I was actually talking before we went live about the vocal minority of Lions fans which have come out and been pretty atrocious, especially when we lost, about going in on the team or going in on our staff. And it happened in the 49ers game last year as well. The number of hate messages that Dan Campbell got, and he had to move.
Josh Reynolds.
Yeah.
Reported that's the reason he didn't come back.
And people wonder why we are a very defensive franchise when it comes to fans, and they wonder why we sort of take this us versus everybody mentality, because this has been seething for ages. People cannot stand the fact that we're a good football team now, and they're waiting for us to fail. I was getting quote tweeted and that at the start of the fourth quarter of this game, so what happened to you guys, yada yada, and they've been waiting every single week for this. And they're just, and it's same with Lions fans as well. The negative ones have got people already going, this is, and you're like, oh Jesus, you've just been, you've been under a rock for 3 years, and now you're getting your moment in the sunshine. But this is why we're so defensive, because, people who praise this team, they don't praise us. It's sarcastic. It's not genuine. It's, look at you doing well for a change. And then when we fail, it's like, look at you suck again. No, we don't. No, we don't suck again. And go screw yourselves. So it's I just block it out. The only thing this was funny for is because Woodward got absolutely railed for it, and that was quite funny. They're the first ones to go and start complaining about the regime and start writing hate tweets and stuff like that. Yet they're the ones last week saying, we're going to railroad these guys. This team's so good. Washington aren't going to have a chance. It's and then you flipped. It's what does views and impressions.
There's been a lot of copium by Lions fans, I think, as well in this. And I don't want to harp on this point too much. But I don't think I read a single person saying, we could well lose this game, we're so banged up, I can really see it happening, and it will be okay if we do, it won't be the end of the world. And the number of people that I've seen say afterwards, well, we were really banged up, and who could have expected that we could have even gotten this far? And it's like, how much of a 180 have you done in your head to where you're expecting us to go to the Super Bowl, and then suddenly it's okay that we've lost this game? Like, be consistent, at least.
I think the thing is here, why people were so confident going in. Like, don't forget, this is 4 years since they've been hired now. And every single year, like, this is the first time we've hit what you would call an actual speed bump, in that we've not progressed further than we did before. Like, even when you go for the 3 wins, you go to nearing the playoffs, then you go to the championship game, and then this year you're 15-1, you've got the 1 seed for the first time ever, and you've won the NFC North twice. Like, up until that point, everything's just gone up, and this team has always just delivered when it needs to. So I think, when you're like that and you're in that mindset, you expect the team to do it, even in spite of all the odds in front of them. You're like, no, I've seen what this team does. It just keeps going. And now this is the first real speed bump we've hit in terms of end of season results, and people are now like, well, actually, yeah, maybe this isn't super team. This isn't, it can just get 50 injuries and still be fine. I think the realism has now reset in. And I don't think it was ever a bad thing in the first place. It's just we're used to this team getting better year on year. Literally up until last week, that's what they've done for 4 years now. So, I think that's where the change has come from there. But now it's like, yeah, it was a bit too much for us. And no team can be expected to, be able to deal with that severe level of injuries and be able to keep a team out and whatnot.
Oh, all right. I just want to give a shout out to some people who've been exceptionally kind and nice since the loss, and call them out by name. So first of all, Callum was in our DMs just saying what an incredible season it's been. Just want to say once again what an amazing podcast and job you do covering the Lions. Go Lions. Thank you, Callum, for that. That was great. That was on Twitter. I'll say Andy Burrows, who was our Washington fan, one of the Washington fans we were on last weekend, absolute twat for tagging us in everything that could have hurt us after the loss. But I think actually, personally, quite gracious, but publicly shoving it in his face. But I mean, the sort of bloke he was. You saw it last weekend. I kind of loved it in a way, because he didn't do anything unfair. And actually, most of the time, he was clapping back at like Woodward and stuff like that, which secretly I kind of enjoyed. So.
Nah, he's crossed a banter boundary. Andy, when we play you in Washington next year, Andy, you better damn sure make sure you win, because I'm bookmarking all this stuff. I will have my revenge.
But he'd expect nothing less from you, so that's okay.
Exactly. I think I bought this on myself.
Who would have thought it? Ant and Wayne Bridge having a similar arc in the space of 48 hours.
What did Wayne Bridge do?
Oh,
you haven't heard about the Wayne Bridge thing?
He's doing MMA. Oh, he was doing MMA, wasn't he? And then
he was gonna box KSI, and then KSI obviously referred to the John Terry incident, and now Wayne Bridge has pulled out of the fight 24 hours after accepting it.
Oh no, I'm not pulling out the fight. I've just got to wait until I can pull my punch. I've got no foot to land on at this moment in time, apart from be nice.
That's one of the things, actually, before I go on with the nice stuff, that I want to say about as well. How many of the fans of other fan bases who haven't made it to this point see fit to throw punches at this point? And it's like, I'm sorry, I didn't even realise you made the playoffs, or I didn't even realise that you got through the wild card round. And it's like, sorry, are you calling us a shit team right now? Because I'm pretty sure your shit ass was swept by us this year, so what does that make you? Anyway, I want to shout out some nice things now, including MileMarker301 with a $10 super chat saying, still proud, one pride. Thank you, MileMarker. Appreciate you. Also, we had a really lovely message from Bengals UK, who said, you must still be feeling it from last night. Commiserations, great game, but gutting loss for you. And then just said, you're my second team, was with you all the way. That was nice to read. Then we had one of our Jets friends, Callum Insoles, said there were quite a few kind of essays in there, but just kind of saying, that the game was tough and that was poor, but, enjoying the ride with us. What else do we have? And then Nick Yada Yada wanted to ask us a question, which is, now that our beloved Lions are out, which team are people cheering or not cheering for? I have about 0 followers, but I'm curious what the fan base thinks. Me, Bills, great talent, but blue-collar, working-class town, plus they're not Kansas City, and I thought Detroit versus Bills would be Super Bowl. Thanks. So before we get into the game very briefly, let's talk about who we're wanting to get there. It may be a fairly hollow chat, but I definitely have a preferred Super Bowl lineup, and I definitely have a...
Same.
Well, I have a Super Bowl lineup. If I get the Super Bowl lineup I want, I don't have any preference as to who wins, but if I don't get my Super Bowl lineup, then I want one of those two to win it. So what about you guys?
I know me and you've got the same one, so I'll let Ant go first, and then me and you can weigh in with ours, 'cause I know me and you have the same one.
I want Washington to win it. And if it's against the Bills, so be it. No, I want Washington to win it against the Chiefs. I want them to go and beat out there. The only thing that can make me feel better at this moment in time are Tony Romo's tears. So hopefully the Chiefs do away with the Bills, and then I can wallow in his misery and I'll feel better, and then Washington can go win the whole damn thing.
Oh, damn it, because I know me and Matt both want Washington Buffalo in the Super Bowl. Because either way, then, for me at least, it's the team that beat us versus one of the teams that beat us in the regular season. And either way, Bills, who are up there with us, is probably one of the unluckiest, in inverted commas, franchises in the history of the sport, making it 4 times, ever winning it, then finally winning it, just ending the fucking domination of Patrick Mahomes would be nice. Or it's the team that beat us and they just get the complete and utter turnaround, and then it makes us look a bit better if the team that beat us in the playoffs went on to win it. So if both of them make it, which honestly, you look at the balance of probabilities, is the least likely outcome of all 4 possible matchups, but that's the one I want the most.
Yeah, give me Bills Commanders, please, and then I can just enjoy myself as a neutral. If it's just one of them, then I'm heavily rooting for them to win it. Actually, it would be delicious in some way to watch the Commanders beat the Chiefs. It would be interesting to see what Spagnuolo could do against Daniels, because I think that the Commanders would actually be very well matched up against Kansas City. In a similar way, actually, to how I thought that Houston were matched up well against Kansas City, which kind of came true, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, anyway, let's talk about the game. So I'll be brief, because it's still raw. 45-31 in favour of the Commanders. Jared Goff, 23 of 40, 313. Hey, didn't even notice that. 313 in yards. 1 touchdown, 3 picks. Otherwise, Monty had a little shovel pass, 1 of 1 for 20. Teddy Bridgewater came in for a couple of reps. He was 1 of 1 for 3. And then Jameson Williams obviously had that absolutely terrible pick, 0 of 1 for an interception. On the ground, Detroit had 201 yards rushing on 23 carries, including 14 for 105 and 2 for Gibbs. And JMO had an end around, went for 61 yards and a touchdown. Monty himself only went for 4 yards a carry, but started slow and then actually kind of picked up a bit in the second half. Through the air, 336 yards as well. Amon-Ra, 8 of 10 for 137. Gibbs, 6 of 11 for 70. Sam Laporta, 6 of 7 for 51 on a touchdown. Obviously, Goff had the fumble in there as well before going to defense to turn over to Washington. Jaden Daniels, 22 of 31, 299, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and an almost perfect performance. He also had 16 for 51 on the ground. Brian Robinson was 15 for 77 and 2 on the ground. And then Jeremy McNichols, 4 for 8 and a touchdown on the ground. In the air, led by Diami Brown, who continues his breakout, 6 of 8 for 98. Terry McLaurin, 4 of 6 for 87 and a touchdown. And Zach Ertz, 5 of 5 for 28 and a touchdown. They did have a fumble, but it was out of bounds. Diami Brown had it punched out, but we unfortunately couldn't recover. On defense, it's the first time this season that I've seen 3 of our players have double-digit tackles. 14 for Campbell, 13 for Anzalone, 11 for Branch. No sacks on the day was very telling, but 6 TFLs, 2 by Anzalone, 2 by Branch, 1 by Joseph, 1 by Al-Qadim Mohammed. For Washington, Chin had 12 tackles, was the only one above 10. We had 2 sacks, both by Dorrance Armstrong, and 3 other TFLs, 1 by Lassmore, 1 by Igna Bogany, I can never say that name, and 1 by Dante Fowler Jr. They had 4 picks, as we mentioned, 2 by Sam Rastrill, 1 which was a pick 6 by Quan Martin, and 1 by Jeremy Chin. Jake Bates perfect, 5 of 5 on kicks. Zane Gonzalez missed a field goal, but was otherwise 7 for 7. Apart from that one, one punt by either team. We're not going to go through a play-by-play, as I said before, but just on themes of it, it was a borderline good start for the Lions in this game, boys. I mean, punt by either team, well, a punt and then a turnover on downs by Washington after a massive fuck-up on the handoff with Mariota going under center. But then after that, the Lions go out to a 7-0 lead, and after we have a fumble in the red zone up 7-3, Washington make it 9-7, but then we hit back with another touchdown drive of our own. So, you know, it's 14-10 halfway through the second quarter. Like, we are ahead in this game, and while it's a bit back and forth, it still feels fine at this point. I think, what do you guys think about, you know, that start and, you know, just kind of how it all slipped away? I mean, the fumble in the red zone feels like it should be a really decisive moment where things could start to turn, but we still get coming back at that point.
We did, but it was just, yeah.
Sorry, go on, Ash.
Well, I was going to say, but talking about that fumble, that is what it is. I know you said it wasn't a redefining moment because we could punch back in the same way it was, because that play, unfortunately, I know it's been said twice since that we got the look we wanted and it was more execution and the play call, but going empty on a 3rd and 1, I know we've got Amon-Ra matched up against Bobby Wagner, which is technically a good thing, but when we're running the ball so well, when we're run blocking that well, it was just emblematic of the kind of getting a bit too cute here. It's the same on the first drive, the sort of the 3rd down. I know it's 3rd and long, but again, empty look, no backfield, and they get pressure on Goff. He throws it probably to Tim Patrick and it goes incomplete. There was a couple of times, even early, where while you can see, it was like that 4th down we had where it was 4th and 1 and we tried to throw it to Shamo. You can see the logic there, but when there's clearly an easier option, we would make it too hard for ourselves in some ways. So yeah, while we were punching back, you could see some of the signs early on offense that, yeah, we're going to have to play a perfect game here, and unfortunately it never happened.
I mean, it's kind of like Dan says when it comes to, you know, these high leverage games and, you know, you're in the playoffs and that, it comes down to like those 5 plays. Like there are certain plays in the game where if you win them all, you win the game, and if you lose them, then you're gonna lose. And you look back at the likes of, you know, the fumble, like Amon-Ra trips there, like, you know, you don't execute that play properly. If he does it properly, then you win that. We have them in a 4th down situation in our red zone, and we've got 12 men on the field, and we give up a stupid ass penalty, which ultimately results in points when we could have stopped and turned them away. Like, you know, these plays, you look at these 5 plays where it influences, and we lost them all, like in high leverage situations where we needed to do better. And yeah, like you said, that's why we didn't bring our A game. We didn't bring our B game. It was when it really mattered. We weren't able to bring, you know, the level we needed to it. And unfortunately, with mistakes like that, you put in too much on your offense, and you know the offense just can't carry it every single week, and then the offense starts to make mistakes. You hear from Goff, you know, he doesn't, you know, he's not feeling in rhythm. You know, he just sails one a little too high and it gets picked. You know, you can't do the run game as much as you want to, and it just takes you out your wheelhouse. So and what it also does is it gives the other team just so much enthusiasm, and like what they did to us, like they just completely and utterly destroyed us when it came to going after Jaden on our own offensive line. That they found our busted knee and they took a crowbar to it. Like we were a stable body on there, but one specific person wasn't, and they just kept smacking away at it and creating pressure from it. And you know, they found the pressure points and they pinched them. And when your nerves getting pinched, you can't do out about it. So yeah, it all comes back to that again. It's the high leverage plays you don't win, make that game so much harder, and then you know there's just no coming back from it. And it just always felt after that fumble, like we were chasing, we could have been 11 points up if that thing goes in. And then after that, you're just, there's just a feeling of inevitability about it, which is a shame because as up to now in this entire tenure, prime time is where we've really brought it on and really brought our stuff. And this is the first time really we can go out there and say we didn't.
Yeah. And it obviously didn't help that I know I admit I was a bit too deep in the feels on it, but there's a certain play, a turnover where I feel shouldn't have counted, should have been brought back, and a certain player ejected.
Oh, he's a scumbag. He's a scumbag.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
We're getting there, thank God. But I'll leave it to then. Let's just say how people. It seems I've lost two of my favourite sort of players on other teams this year with their conducts. One was Strawn Jennings, and obviously the other one is that aforementioned player, which is sad because I really like both of them.
There's two scumbags for Washington because one apparently went to the Shakespearean School of Acting down in London as well. So there are several people who behaved unbecomingly in this one. Terry's flop.
Oh yeah.
Man. And don't try and argue that it wasn't a flop. He didn't get touched. The man went down like he'd been shot. It was top tier acting. And again, that is another score that comes from deceptive play. And he's going crazy. So, while the fans, I give them a lot of credit. This team, some of them had some naughty moments, which, just sours it a bit.
So moving on from 14-10, Washington have a 3-play 70-yard drive, which was ended by a 58-yard pass to Terry McLaurin. 2 plays later, Goff throws a pick 6, which was by Quan Martin. Just got a bit greedy, slightly overthrew his man. It was never there to be had. There would have had to be a perfect pass and you would have gained about 10 yards from it. It really kind of just wasn't worth the risk reward, but threw it anyway. That makes you from 4 points up to 10 down. And to our credit, we come back with the end around, which was a beautiful play design. And we've seen JMO do that before, but it seems incredibly hard to stop. So suddenly only 3 points down and maybe you can get it back. Washington go on a 7-play, 70-yard drive. Again, can't stop shit. And, their run game really never got going during this game. But it just seemed like Daniels could get a kind of chunk play anytime he wanted, or he would get it with his legs. Again, he didn't go beast mode with the legs. I think it was 15 for 52. But every time he needed a 3 or 4 yard conversion, he got 3 or 4 yards, just couldn't stop it. So they got by 10. But then the Lions have a great drive to finish the half. You can go in only 3 points down, feels like a bit of a victory, and then Goff throws a pick, which I think is potentially more of a good play by the defensive player, but it's still absolute backbreaker for the Lions. Sam Ristrell with an amazing play. And that's the end of the half. So 10 points down, 31-21. Highest scoring divisional first half in NFL history, did you say? I think.
Of any playoff game.
Any playoff game. That's pretty exceptional in itself.
When did the first playoff game ever with 600 yards of offense in the first half? There was over 600 yards of offense.
I think it was up there because the one that it beat was the Texans Chiefs a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they said it was one of the first ones ever to go over 600 yards of offense in a half.
Yeah. So obviously we've got a lot in there. The massive plays to Terry, the pick 6, JMO end around, their long drive, which didn't have many big plays apart from Diami Brown 38 yards in between Arnold and Joseph kind of really hurt, and then we obviously had our pick to end the half. There's a series of just a stretch where we go touchdown, pick 6 for them, touchdown, pick for us. It was a back-breaking period of play in the last 7.5 minutes of the first half, boys, and it felt like there was no kind of coming back after that. And yet we've been 10 points down at a half before and managed to do it, so it wasn't entirely hopeless, but it didn't feel great, especially the way they were going down the field every time.
No, you're right. There was, even against the Texans, it felt like we were still going to win. It felt like we were still in that. Like you said, there was just something off in this, but again, it was sort of some of the mistakes we were making are just, you're not used to seeing us make them, and especially on the offense, they're usually so crisp and clean and great, and they had their moments, but then there's just moments when you're like, this isn't us. Like, this team are absolutely, they're bringing it. We said if Washington wanted to beat us, what they had to do was they had to come and play 250% ball. Like, not 100%, that's nowhere near good enough. And then they came and played 250% ball on us. And every time we made a mistake, they were there to clean it up, like the pick six. You've got to, and again, we'll talk about the legitimacy of that, but he still housed it from quite a distance and took it in. And like those are the big plays that really just take the crowd away, that just deflate your opponents. And, it just kind of felt like every time we were trying to make a comeback in this, they'd hit us again. And the other thing they did was just, and you could tell early on, was just they were out coaching us, like all over the field. They were out coaching us, and that was another one of the things we said they had to do to beat us. We said that Cliff would have to school Aaron, and well, he may not have schooled him because again, with what Aaron has at his disposal, he's at a massive disadvantage here. But given what Aaron was trying to do, Cliff like really effectively dealt with that, and Jaden just had like he had the time he needed to make the plays. And again, he just looks so damn good. For someone to come into our house like that as a rookie and just say, screw you, I don't care about you, is kind of a little bit humbling in a way with how he went about it. But yeah, it's just something really fell off here, and it felt like we were trying to force at some stage. And I think that comes with like the defense is struggling to make stops and they're accumulating points and they're 10 in front. And so yeah, you got to give a lot of credit to them because we kept threatening, but they just kept shutting the door on us.
Yeah. So I'll start with the second interception first. The first one by Sancho. It was a good play from him. Was underthrown by Goff, and I hate to rag on him, but it's also slightly on JMO for not attacking the ball. He just kind of stood there and let it happen. He didn't really try and get to the ball. Like even if he got in and just broke it up, we still would have had a chance. As for the pick six, great play by Quan. Was a bit of a bad read from Goff when we watched it. There was 3 defenders around. It was a bit overthrown. Quan gets it. How the fuck Frankie Louvu did not get flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct and got ejected like Branch did, I have no fucking idea. Like you watch it back, and it's Goff's not even trying to make attempts. He just comes in, helmet right to the Goff's jaw. He's obviously having to come out and go into concussion protocol for a bit. Luckily, according to Dan, he didn't have a concussion, but I say how concussions are, but you've had one, you probably know, like I've had a couple myself. Sometimes the actual effects of that don't really show up properly for symptoms for a couple of days. I'm not trying to excuse Goff's play like I kind of did on Saturday a bit, but that was the defining moments in a way because that kind of showed the Commanders that they could get away with it in a way. The sort of naughty players you're saying with Terry's flop, that get a couple of decisions going their way. Like, I know I won't get onto it with the 12 man on the field, but according to some, we were trying to call a timeout and the officials just didn't hear. Bit sus. But yeah, Frankie Louvu, I really liked you. I even said in the preview, he's the kind of Sam linebacker I'd want in our scheme if we didn't have Barnes. Fuck him now. Fuck him. It's just, that sort of stretch of play here, that sort of twist. That's when the knife went in. Like, I know Matt had to go halftime. That's what I was saying. I was like, I could tell in a way that we really need to play well in the second half, dig ourselves out the hole like we did against the Bills and the Texans. We even said at halftime, this feels like the Bills game where we'll make it kind of respectably and we'll bring it close, but I feel like the game's gone here, and turned out to be right. Like, good couple of plays in there from us to JMO end around. That's the kind of trick plays that will work. And I know obviously it kind of set up the one later that didn't work, but using some of their tendencies against them, that's what they did to us to a threat extreme. So you're saying about how Cliff would need to outcoach Aaron Glenn. We knew coming into this game, Daniels does really well against the blitz because of his legs, because he can extend plays and how their offensive line works. You blitz him, he can replace them out with a ball. They had the perfect game plan for that. Quick kick passes out to the outside.
What?
Ben's going to Chicago. It's official.
Fuck off!
Oh, Jesus Christ. You've got to do this to us on air. We're getting...
Fuck off.
We're having to
Fucking
talk about this game again, and then we lose Ben to the Bears. You know what? My hate level for them's just gone through the roof now. Screw the Rams, screw the Vikings. I hate the Bears. I hate the lot of them. Right, you know what? We're gonna 6-0 you lot of frauds again next year. We're gonna keep doing it again and again and again and again and again. And it's gonna feel better. But why now? Thank you, Ben. I appreciate you. 4 fantastic years here. You will be one of the best offensive coordinators we have ever had, and we really appreciate your service here. The next part of your career, though, you're the enemy, and we don't care for you one bit. So we hope you go there, and I hope you ruin Caleb, and I hope you get that bunch of moribund so-and-sos back under their rock again where they belong. Under us.
Well, now we know why he didn't arrange his in-person interviews yet. Because it was already done. You don't do it this quickly if it wasn't already done.
He must have known before Saturday.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake. Right, and at least this also clears up one thing. Lance Newmark, you are now the New York Jets' new general manager. Enjoy having to deal with fucking Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers.
So, like I was saying about being interested to see if this works, I can't wait to see who he hires as his coordinators, and I can't wait to see what happens with that team. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, in terms of him knowing our tendencies and us knowing his, it's going to be super interesting.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of narrative, in terms of making things interesting and gritty and wanting to fuck the shit out of that team, no move could energize more. It fucking sucks, but this is going to be the best division in football, and it's going to be really fun. That's all I can say about it in a positive spin.
I think I know who his new OC will be.
Well,
someone who before he came here has a reputation of working with young quarterbacks to help them get ready for the draft and transition into the pros.
You think the QB coach?
I think Mark Brunel. Brunel goes. JT Barrett, who's been around a couple of years, becomes the new quarterbacks coach.
I could see that.
And then he can take Seth Ryan, who's our assistant wide receivers coach, and Steve Oliver, who's our assistant offensive line coach. Right, okay. I better get my internet back soon because it looks like I'm writing at least one article this week, hopefully. Anyway, back to this game. Where was we? I can't even remember anymore. Fuck. Let's just go into the second half, I guess. I don't know anymore.
Think about mean tweets. My mean tweet count is going up. That this thing is going to start clicking and rolling now.
Apparently in Chinese New Year, Chinese Zodiac, it's the year of the bear. This year, by the way.
Hang on. Will this work?
You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them!
Okay, we're getting demonetized, but that's cool.
I'm sorry, I just came to pop into my head. I was like, that's the perfect quote. He was supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them. God, what did I say earlier before you joined? If he does it, if he joins Chicago, he'll go from being one of our most beloved people in Detroit to one of the most hated. Fucking hope you get being booed, Ben.
I mean, we did it to Stafford, so we can do it to anyone, can't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway. Oh, it's not actually Year of the Bear. Oh, Bailey. God damn you. I fell for that one.
Oh, God.
Year of the Snake? Could it be?
I'm looking now because oh my God. Guess what?
What?
You know
it is the Year of the Snake!
Yeah! Sorry, Ant.
You know the scene from Airplane where they're all, lining up to absolutely twat the hell out of that poor woman who's going crazy? That feels like we're the person in that seat at the minute. Like someone's come up to us with a tire iron, like that was the game the other day. Now someone's just smacked us in the face with a boxing glove, and then someone's going to be waiting with them with a 2x4 or something like that. And it feels like we're going to have to go through a lot of this before we're able to settle in, like with more staff leaving and all this stuff. So, oh my God, my mood is foul now. I apologize in advance if my Twitter's very abusive for the next, not abusive, but very hostile for the next few days. But I'm feeling in a hostile mood right now. This is.
And you fucking cunt.
What?
Per Shefty just. Johnson has been busy assembling a star-studded coaching staff. The leading candidate to become his defensive coordinator in Chicago is former Saints head coach Dennis Allen.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Hey, at least he's not taking Kelvin.
Oh, I'd put that in Discord. Tell me when you've seen it. Well, I'm just about to put in Discord.
Can we just take a break? I think I need an emotional break.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
What? What now? Oh, fuck's sake.
Oh, a shout out to @devoted to Detroit on X, who has posted a photo of Ben Johnson flanked by Hitler and Osama bin Laden.
Oh God!
Wow! Wow! Holy shit!
I need. You know what I need right now? I need an emotional support bear right now. I need something to hug. I don't have a bear. Do I have a bear?
Well, we've got Ben Johnson still currently at the moment.
I might need to go and get a bear or something. I need to hug something.
Oh man, that made me.
He's got a bear. Hang on, just a
really
minute.
Made me laugh. Right, show us on the bear where he touched you.
It's fucking everywhere at this fucking point. Fucking hell.
Oh man.
Oh my Jesus. This fucking show is taking a turn. Oh, right.
I've got my sprout. This is my emotional support sprout. It's a plushie I got. It's a sprout. It's an actual sprout.
Oh, I thought it was like a plushie bell sprout.
Yeah.
Sweet.
This is here with me for the rest of it. I can't deal with this right now.
Oh, right. Let's get on with just talking about the rest of this game. Then we can talk about the rest of the divisional round matchups, and then we can talk about where we go from here as a team. And it's going to start with a new offensive coordinator. What fun that is. So we go in 10 points down, and the Commanders get the ball. Now, it's all important for the Lions to get a stop. We need 2, really, but 1 is a good start. And the Lions actually force a 4 and out by the Commanders. So convert for a first down on the first play, but then branch TFL, scramble for 1 yard, illegal shift penalty declined after an incomplete pass, punt. And then the Lions go 91 yards for a touchdown to get to within 3. So, suddenly they're way back in this game, 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. Ended by a Gibbs run up the middle for 8 yards, but there was a phantom face mask penalty in there. Dante Fowler drew the flag against David Montgomery, who I think there might have been a shout for horse collar. I think horse collar would have been a better shout than a face mask, but I don't think it was a horse collar either. But at least we would have been on the right part of the body. So the Lions get a bit lucky, but do convert. Now they need another stop. And they did get a missed field goal later on, but in the mix of all of this, it didn't quite go right. Commanders really took the wind out of our sails completely with a 15-play, 70-yard, 8.5-minute drive, which was finished off after a fourth down conversion on 4th and 2 at the Lions 16. And then another 4th and 2. Lions had too many men on the field for that play. That was gutting. And then Brian Robinson with a 1-yard rush up the middle. Lions then threw another pick. That was the JMO pick. Threw it straight to Sam Ristrell. Looked, I don't know, Ant, if you remember this play, looked exactly like the Keenan Allen pick where he threw it straight to Xavier McKinney in week 18, just to bolster Xavier McKinney's stats.
Yeah.
Fucking horrible pick. Commanders then, after the interception, go 8 plays, 66 yards in 4.5 minutes to go 17 in front, and that's ball game. But Lions get a field goal. Washington miss a field goal, and then we finish with a pick to end the game. Second half started well. We got to within 3, but we couldn't get another key stop to kind of really get back in it. And I thought we were dead and buried at the half, and I kind of dared to dream halfway through the third quarter that when we were within 3, it might put enough doubt in there, but we couldn't make a play.
No, I mean, you do what you need to. You come out, you stop them from extending the lead. You're able to get the first score, and Gibbs looked really damn good. Gibbs kind of tried to take it by the scruff of his neck here, but again, there just always felt a doubt about our ability to be, the Commanders put some really long drives together. That really hurt. Like, there was an 8-minute one at some stage. I think it was just after we got ours, which just completely sucks the life out of the game because you're off for so long, and then they get the score, and when you're in the fourth quarter, you're so far behind. You're just in a whole world of bother, and we had to move away from running the ball, and Jameer had been our biggest weapon really in the entire game. And when we're not able to put the ball in his hands the way we want to, you're gonna struggle from that point on. And Washington, give them kudos, they clinically finished us off. They had us down on the floor. Unlike the Texans, who gave us a route back into it, like I say, you've got to win drive by drive. You've got to make a stop, get a score, make a stop, get a score, and they've all got to go in your favor. And Washington didn't really, do that for us. We might win one drive, but then they win the next 2, and there was just going into the fourth quarter when they got their touchdown there, it was just this is all she wrote, folks. And you kind of spent the last half hour of that game just like so it's draft time, folks. And again, you've just got to give all the kudos in the world to them. They didn't let up. They just didn't step off us. And to be honest, to beat this team, that's what you've got to do. It's what the Bills did. The Bills never took their foot off the gas. And that's how they beat us. Like Tampa, when they beat us, they never took their foot off the gas. You've got to play 60 minutes, and we kept trying, and you could see the team were trying, but you could just see this was going to be one too many obstacles to overcome. So it was heartbreaking, man. This is the first time in a long time where we've even after we lost to the 49ers last year, it's like, well, we've made the NFC Championship game ahead of schedule. This is still a pretty damn good season. Now you're just like, I think when the dust has settled, you will still look back on this and be like, we've still done things this year we've never done before, and we're still in the right direction. But it just doesn't make up for the fact that you're so close. It's so close, and to know that we'd have had the Eagles as well, we'd have kicked their ass as well, I reckon, and it would have been a lot easier than this one. But it is what it is. It was a tough second half.
Ash, that second half, the Lions dared us to dream a little bit at the start, and then like the first half, it started well, and then it all went badly wrong quickly.
Yeah, well, the quickly, definitely towards the end. I'm just looking obviously the play-by-play. The fact that the JMO inception drive, which was our second and a half, came with 13 and a half minutes left in the game. That's one thing that they did was, okay, I know they had to punt obviously on a drive, but they took 3 minutes off the clock roughly. And then they were in pre-event, and our scoring drive took 6.5 minutes. And then their next drive took 8-9 minutes. They just ran the ball control, quick passes, ran the clock down because they knew at that point with the way we were playing and the way that we couldn't stop them on defense, we were fighting them or we're fighting the clock. And unfortunately, as I referred to earlier, Ben Johnson suffers, and this is one thing Chicago will probably find out. He does suffer from smartest man in the room syndrome, and he really did on that JMO play. That was completely unnecessary. You've just converted a new set of downs. Yeah, okay, catch him off guard, maybe go for a shot play. Not that. not that,
I think when you're
or at least, or go on.
no, I was just going to if you're coaching that play into the playbook, you've got to make sure that if the play gets blown up, that JMO is aware of what he has to do in that situation. And
Yeah.
I think JMO is clearly it's a run pass option on his own. So like it could be an end around if he sees the opportunity for it. It could be a pass if he sees a man up deep. There was no man up deep. So run it, throw it away. But the way he kind of panicked, like there was clear panic in there on him, like kind of going, I meant to throw it, so there we go. And it's like there's a failure of coaching in that play, for sure.
Oh God, yeah. Like you shouldn't be putting him in that situation.
Well, I don't even necessarily agree with that personally, because I think it's okay to like
because they've never got him to do it before. Like he's never thrown a. To my knowledge, he's not thrown a pass for us.
But Tom Kennedy had never thrown a pass until his 75-yarder way back when. Like, you know...
Oh, yeah, in a playoff game when down 10 in one of the highest pressure situations possible. Like, JMO knows we're behind. The trick play's there, and he wants to complete... Like, JMO wants to do it for his team. Like, he is a team guy, and you could almost say that he's too much of a team guy. Like, right, I'm going to do as I've been told. Whereas old JMO might have gone, you know what? Okay, I'm going to run the ball and see what I can get with it. And, you know, maybe he would have. But you don't put a guy who hasn't... Like, if you're going to do that, do it to someone who's thrown a pass for us this year. Do it to someone who's a little bit more used to it, a little bit more used to playing QB. Don't put it in the hands of your receiver who hasn't done one all year. Like, that is completely unfair on JMO. And that's just easy ammunition to give his haters who have been like, oh, well, it's a terrible throw. No shit, Sherlock. He's a receiver. He's not meant to throw the ball, especially on a pressure situation like that. It has consequences, and that's why you shouldn't be doing those sort of plays in that sort of situation.
Yeah, the only reason JMO got that, but should have got that, is the fact, as I referred to earlier, it's using the end around he got on earlier against them because they'll sort of be drawn in and he's supposed to throw it. But that's the thing. Matt, you literally said what I was going to say, which is you do what you did with Penne. What did Penne do in that situation when there was no one there for him?
Just drop
the shoulder, try and get a couple of yards. Easy thing to do, easy thing to coach in. It's like, okay, yeah, if these two people are, you took it and run. Hell, I referred to it earlier. I know our commander's guests kind of disagreed, but it's true from at least the way I read their playbook. It's what they have with Daniels on some of their plays. It is half field reads. If they're not open, you took it and run. Like that 15-yard scramble we had, I think, to open up the second half. Easy. And that's the one thing they're going to get. And it might be the thing that pisses off Chicago fans because, yeah, he's all this great thing, but he does have these moments. And in a place now where he's going to have a lot of scrutiny on him, at least here, he had he had like Dan in front of him, sort of like happy to take some of the blame. He's going to be the sole fucking focus now because Caleb ain't going to fucking take it.
If Aaron goes, we need to hire a DC who is exceptionally talented at coaching the third quarter because then we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, two of the external candidates I would have mentioned have been hired because in the past
Luana
15 minutes, the
Rumo's
Colts have
gone
hired.
to,
Yeah. And who was someone I would have put in.
Many thanks to our friendly Packers fan, Adam Gilchrist, who has sent over a £20 super chat, has said, use this to get some good food and drink to help with the game. I went through the exact same pain when the Pack blew the 1 seed in back-to-back years. Much appreciated, Adam. Thank you very much.
The emotional support sprout says thank you.
Thank you, because that's true. They're the only the Packers in 2011. Is it 2011 or 2012? One of them, the only other team other than us to win 15 games in a regular season and then lose in a divisional round.
Yeah, pain. I mean, it's very rare because only 10 other teams have won 15 games in history. So it can't be that often because no one's had the opportunity to do it. But
Schefter tweeted we're the only 15-win team to ever never win a playoff game that season.
That can't be true.
That
can't be true.
Schefter tweeted it out.
Well, Schefter clearly is the holder of all truth.
Schefter's, bollocks. 2011 Green Bay, 15-1. They became the 6th team to win 15 games in NFL history, and then they're losing the divisional round to the Giants 37-20.
Schefter's full of shit, but we knew that before today.
What a prick.
Yeah. Is there any blowback towards Dan Campbell for this game? I don't mean in a way of like all the hate that like other people have been throwing at them. I mean like realistic. He didn't get the team ready for the game or whatever like that. I thought that both of his press conferences, both today and yesterday, were absolutely excellent. Or yesterday and Saturday, I thought that he was magnanimous in defeat. I thought he put our issues out there very well. But I don't know. Is there any earned criticism on his part? Do you think it goes on the coordinators? Do you think it's just unlucky? What do you think?
So, again, you go back to the whole 5 plays that lose you the game type thing. You're like, is there anything he's doing that lose you them? It's like, a player trips up, he can't help that. The fumble, he can't help the fumble. He can't help the, a 3 steps one and, they're into the quarterback so quick and it doesn't work there. He isn't the one who gets Goff to airmail one over his receiver. Like strategically, you're fine. There's no egregiously aggressive calls that he got wrong. I think the only thing I think you could possibly say that maybe, like, I don't know what went on with the 12 man on the field thing, whether he should have noticed and whether they, do that, but like, probably not. And to be honest, I don't even really care about that. The only thing maybe is, could he have got in Aaron Glenn's ear and say, look, this isn't working.
Stop blitzing.
We need to, and again, Tampa did it, so I'm really confused as to why they were so heavy on it. Like, could he have got in Aaron Glenn's ear a bit more and said, "Look, come on, Aaron, this isn't working. Change it up, do something different." Maybe that's where he's at, but that's on Aaron there. And Dan. Maybe Dan's fault is he trusts too much and he leaves it in the hands of his guys too much, and just he needs to know sometimes when to interject when he and the whole world can see it's not working and be like, right, come on now, guys, let's sit down, let's think about this, let's do something a bit different, change it up. Like, that could maybe the only thing I would lever against him here. And even now, I feel like I'm being harsh. It's not on Dan. Like, Dan's... He doesn't talk about the injuries. He doesn't refuse to blame it. Dan, it's all right. It really is all right after 25 odd serious IR stints and you've lost all these guys. It is all right to say we struggled because of injuries. No one's going to think any less of you because everyone knows you don't put the blame on anybody else there. But that's where I'm at. I don't care. I hold nothing against him for this.
Yeah, I'm in the same position. Like, yeah, okay, veto the JMO plus play, get in Aaron's ear about the blitzing, because I even said it on the preview, didn't I? Daniels is better against the blitz. If you're going to do it rarely and simulate it other times, and do what they did to us so on the Quan play where he got the pick 6. They rushed 3, dropped 8. You can still get pressure with 3. Like, and going into the game, there was all those stats. Ever since week 11, wasn't it? We're one of the best teams getting pressures, rushing only 4, etc., etc. We didn't need to blitz as much. So you're doing that. But at the same time, that's one of Dan's best quality, is that he knows he doesn't know everything. He lets his coordinators coordinate. He doesn't interfere as much. So we can't really rate against that. And with the 12-man, yeah, maybe scream for a timeout, but supposedly we were. And on with it, supposedly it's because we had Maurice Norris and Stanley Thomas Oliver on there. One of them should have, I think it was Stanley Thomas Oliver, should have come off for Nowaski, because that's what happened was Nowaski comes on because it's a goal line play, so we go base to match with their personnel. Stanley Thomas Oliver doesn't come on, and because we were setting a formation, it's classed as a dead ball foul. Because if there was just 12 on there and they snapped the ball, it's classed as a live ball foul. We could have got the stop and then had it happen, but because they lined up in a formation with 12 men, it's classed as a dead ball. Those are the only things. Like everything else, yeah, you can't, with the fumble, he can't go and play that and make it Samara doesn't slip over. It's like last year with the NFC Championship game. He can't make Josh Reynolds suddenly catch balls. He did the best he could, and yeah, he's still magnanimous, as you said, doing both press conferences after the game and then today. He didn't make any excuses like certain other coaches would. Cough, cough, Matt LaFleur. Sorry. But it is what it is, and that Dan will rise above it like he always does, and he'll learn from it like he did learn from the Minnesota game. He learned a bit from last year's championship game. Next time it comes to this kind of situation, he will, like, say, if it's that, like, he'll go into the coordinator and be like, okay, your game plan isn't working here. We need to change a couple of things, and it will happen. That's the big thing we can take from this is it's an experience. Like the Megamind quote we had earlier, the best thing about failing is you can learn from it and do better next time.
All right, let's talk stock up, stock down, just in terms of the players who need a shout out for doing well or badly. And I do think there are some players that play well in this game. So to finish on a positive, the players who went out on a high, perhaps, who do you have this week, boys?
Branch
Can I
again.
take the obvious? Oh, yeah, go on. You get Branch.
I'd go for Brian Branch again. He's just absolutely fucking amazing. I just love everything about Brian. I know the defense got its arse handed to them in this, but you know he's always that one. He rarely has a bad game. He's always the one out there making plays, and you know it's not his fault that he's kind of been asked to run fool's gold, trying to go and blitz Jaden all the time. It's so obvious. Like again, that was the thing that was so annoying. The blitzers were so damn obvious they were coming as well. He wasn't put in a position to succeed there. Because I know some people go, "Oh, he missed on some of his," but no, he didn't. Like he was just not put in a position to do it. But his work as a DB, his work on the line, his work against the run is phenomenal. And he's gonna be an All Pro for years and years and years. I got to give him a shout out again. I love him so much, and the fact that every time he has a good game, it makes a Packers fan cry knowing what they did, letting him come here just makes it even better. So yeah, Branch certainly needs a shout out for this.
I'm going to go for the obvious one for people who know me and my players alike. For someone who's coming in and for his second ever career start in a high pressure situation on the other side from when he had his first career start. I know other people might disagree. Mahogany, you are a starting guard for us next year. I don't care which side it's on, you are the starter. Like, I was big on you getting drafted. Everyone knows that. Look at the rookie article I did. He played pretty damn well to be our highest graded player, the highest graded player in the game. Not on offense, not just on our team, on both teams by PFF. I know PFF isn't everything, but 92.2 grade in your second only start. You only give up 3 pressures, admittedly, 1 sack and 2 hurries, but you played out your mind, sir. You missed. There was an early miss on the for I think it was the Monty run on second down, but other than that, you were flawless for me. So Mahogany, welcome to the starting line next year, my friend.
Yeah, I think both Branch and Mahogany were absolutely fantastic. Branch maybe had his best game of the year, had it in the most crucial moment. Just to say, by the way, it's his 3rd game of this season of above a 92 grade by PFF. And those 3 games were at Dallas, at Minnesota, and versus Washington. That is stepping up in a big way in the biggest possible moment for the team. I know Dallas was shit this year, but like, you know what that win meant to this team. And then at Minnesota, especially with what they did this season, and then, the at Minnesota game was the Week 7 game. And then the Washington game just gone. Like, he's been absolutely terrific. So fair play. And then Mahogany, yeah, stepped up in a big way. Hard to see him not getting a starting spot for next year, really, given what's happened. But we've got free agency in the draft to come. Can't preempt these things. He's still only a rook. So let's see what happens. But he's definitely put his hat in the ring. For myself, I'm going to put Jahmyr Gibbs in there. I thought the way he ran the ball was absolutely terrific, but underrated as well with how he was converting things in the passing game. He's really become that Swiss Army knife that we need, and long may that continue. He's been terrific. Anyone else you guys want to shout out?
I think I also want to shout. I think Levi was very good on a day where performances on the defensive line were lacking. Let's say. Like, he was the one guy who was consistently, getting success against them, and like he was a complete menace down the middle there. And this is kind of like an overall up for him on the year from where he's come from. Obviously, for him to now have proven his fitness for the vast majority of a full season now, and to still be in like the playoffs, making plays like he did, like he's good to go now. And you know, he's what we wanted, and hopefully that's it now for him in terms of his injury woes, in terms of the serious ones, anyhow. But yeah, I thought Levi was tremendous. And we're going to need him next year. With Aleem will not be ready to start, and Rita, who knows what's going on there. He will be a pivotal part for us early going. So yeah, well done, Levi. Seems weird I've put two defensive guys out when we've been ruined, but like individually, there are still some incredibly talented players on there. We're just missing so much, man. Like you can't.
Just to say on Levi, by the way, in terms of players who played at least 215 snaps, he was joint 14th in pressures. From the defensive tackle position, defensive tackle or edge positions. Like, that's exceptional. 47 pressures on the season. And everyone, apart from one, had played more snaps than him on the list above. What a season for Levi. I mean, honestly, he really acquitted himself very, very well. Ash, anyone else you want to give a shout out to?
Yep, someone who will now finish the season as PFF's 5th best special teamer this season, having played 332 snaps for us on special teams and even returned a couple himself. Sony Vake, again, great game, stepping in as our gunner the past couple of weeks. Has really elevated himself, and I know obviously there's reports coming out that we've looked at Trishawn Ward in the pre-draft process already. I can see him, because I know Craig is his contract's up again this year. I can see him maybe taking that step up next year, having bedded in the system now. If Scotty sticks around, it's a year under his system with him. He knows what he's doing. I can see him taking that special team role, stepping up to be an RB3 next season, and I'd be completely happy with that.
I have no one else. Frankly, I can't shoehorn in another one, so I won't. If is there anyone else that you would guys like to shout out, or shall we move on?
In terms of good.
Go to bad. If you want to shout anyone for the bad.
I don't know. I mean, like the offense is.
One bad.
Like, the offense put up a lot of points. They didn't do too bad. Like, I guess you just put Penny and people in like that in this week. Like you put him in every single week. But
yeah,
he still played
sure.
well. But yeah, that's probably it for now for good.
Yeah, there's one obvious bad. There's one obvious bad, and it's the guy. He's just had a shit season this year. But when you give up over half the pressures, more than half the pressures we gave up this week came from one player, so 9 of the 15. I don't know what happened, Graham, but this ain't it, boss. It really ain't it. And when there's a bit of uncertainty about Zeitler, like I know me and Matt were predicting earlier this week that if we did go all the way, Zeitler could do with Andrew Whitworth and retire. He could still do that. He could still retire. And suddenly, I know I've just said that Mahogany I'm putting in as one of the starters. If we cut Glasgow, because honestly, he's at that point where the play does justify it. And I know obviously there was the injury stuff as well that Dr. Leal, the DLP, mentioned. If we do cut him, because he just hasn't lived up to the contract, that means we're looking for a new guard. And with the now uncertainty on the offense, which we knew kind of coming in at Ben probably going, but it's going to make our lives a bit harder. So, Graham, we really needed you to have a good game to at least give us some confidence. And instead, you just shut the bed, mate. And that's not good.
I with Graham, I think, because I think Zeitler's going to retire. Risden's been saying it for months and months now that seems to be the way he's going. But put Mahogany in, put Glasgow back at right guard. draft yourself a guard this year who you can potentially bring in to replace him, but give him that chance to prove himself at right guard one last time, because you want continuity, especially with Frank and everything he's going through at centre. I don't really fancy having two rookies right next to him, but move Graham back across, draft your next guy, 12 months. Thanks, Graham. Put the next guy in and do it that way. I think, if he has been dealing with an injury all year, he's been out of position as well. I think he's earned one more shot at this, providing he does well in the off season and he shows that he's still fit and healthy and can do it. Obviously, it all comes down to that. But you certainly want to look at his replacement as well this year and have that plan in place ready for if it doesn't go right. So
Yeah.
It's been disappointing for him, but yeah, maybe see how he does.
Just on Graham's contract, 5.3 million dead, 2.1 million saved if you cut him this year. Cap number 7.4. So if he's fit, he should be a go. I don't think you get his level of guard play for 2.1 million in the savings that you get. So I think he needs to stick around if he can. Jimmy Liao, who's the doctor who works with DLP, has been saying that he seems to have some sort of chronic knee issue. So if that forces him to retire, I mean, maybe see Graham go as a retiree.
Yeah,
It
We'll
makes
see.
sense because he had the ACL injuries in Denver, didn't he?
Yeah,
So it just could be a long-term
Yeah.
effects of that.
it could be.
that's what I say. Just get your next guy, and if he makes it through OTAs and everything and training camp, and he's still good, then he's good. If not, then at least you've got your backup in place, or you can play the first month or two of the season, and you generally get the new guy in, because you want Mahogany to settle in next year as well, and his best chance of doing that is also on the line with as much continuity as possible. So, but yeah, it's something you've got to look at now, certainly.
Mhm.
All right, let's move it on, shall we? Actually, no, I've got one to shout out for the bad, and it's a guy that I absolutely love, but it just didn't work for him yesterday, on Saturday, which is Ife Malifonwu. Just out of the coverage players that were being targeted by Jaden, he was picked on, he was slow to react, couldn't cover the field as well as he would like, seemed like a bit of a fish out of water a little bit compared to how he has done in the past. I mean, it's tough when you don't want to blitz someone and he's the blitz guy. Like, maybe that you're just kind of putting him in a position to fail, but fail he did. And that's a shame because I absolutely love Ife and I hope he comes back. But anyway, more about free agency another time.
As I say, I think you can quickly insert World War Z into this as well. He's not an edge one. Hopefully with Hutch back next year, you will see him be better because he's going to get a lot less attention than he is this year. But in terms of what we needed from a senior edge rusher we invested in, it just didn't do it for us. There was just no threat on the day. He butchered a couple of tackles as well. Like, I mean, in our big situations, tackling's a real Achilles heel for us when we seem to not do well. It goes hand in hand. But for what we bought him in to do, he's not lived up to that. But like I say, I would still keep him for next year because Hutch is back, and that means I'll take him as a guy there, and you can use him, and you can draft another guy, and you can get your depth back. But he was disappointing in this. Like, Jaden just didn't even look like he was going to get close to being sacked in this game. Like, you never felt the threat of a sack. And I had a superb tweet lined up for when we got a sack, and I never got to use it. It really annoyed me. But
Yeah. Okay, let's move on, shall we? We'll talk about the Lions' future in just a moment, but let's talk about the divisional round and then pick the championship games. So in the divisional round, we start off sequentially with Houston at Kansas City, and Texans by far and away had the most yards in this game, I think. They had just under 400 yards of offense compared to the Chiefs' 223. So they almost outgained them 2-1 in yards. And Stroud didn't throw a pick either, but unfortunately for them, they did have a fumble, which they lost. Stroud, 19 of 28 for 245. Mahomes, 16 of 25 for 177 and a touchdown. Mixon had a good day too, 18 of 88 and a touchdown. Kansas City only had 50 yards on the ground, but they did get playoff Travis Kelce, 7 of 8 for 117 and a touchdown. Houston had 3 sacks. The Chiefs down the stretch on defense were exceptionally good. They had 8 sacks, but I think the majority of them came in the second half. Boys, did you watch this one? I mean, if you want to have a look at the dark arts, and we were talking about flopping earlier, Patrick Mahomes gets a 50-meter diving gold medal. But further to that, it actually
the refs were a disgrace in this game.
They were.
I'm going to say that.
It made me consider the idea that there should be some blowback for flopping, because he flopped a few times, and much like diving in football, either gets you a yellow card at the time or a fine after the fact.
15-yard penalty.
I do think it should become a personal foul. I do think so.
Deceivement of the ref should be a 15-yard penalty, or accentuated fucking motion, or just trying to make it seem that it's a lot worse than it is. And we talk about that Frankie Louvu hit. I mean, what Will Anderson did to Patrick Mahomes was a love tap. Like, he didn't touch him. He didn't even touch him helmet to helmet, and he threw his head back. He got called for roughing the passer in one of the most disgraceful calls I've ever seen in my life. And Frankie Louvu can knock Jared Goff into the fucking phantom zone and nothing. Squat. Nada.
Yeah.
It is the rules and how they are enforced, which is an absolute joke. This is not going to send the narrative away that the league favors the Chiefs, because there were so many horrendous calls in this game which just broke the back for Houston and their ability to get back into this game and to make plays. Because that call on Will Anderson was a third down. It'd have been a punt. All of a sudden the Chiefs scored off that drive. It's a joke. It's a complete and utter joke, and the league really needs to get serious about the standard of its reffing, because it ruined what should have been a much better game and potentially a big upset here. Thought Houston acquitted themselves well. Yeah, there were errors in there, and they kind of still look a bit green to be in the championship scene, like the Super Bowl, scene, but they've had a little bit of a down year. They've still had a good one overall, but man, I was annoyed for them. I was angry for them going into our game watching that.
I mean, Ash, these stats are absolutely mad to look at. The Chiefs have 14 first downs in the game, 2 of them by penalty. They were only 4 of 11 on third down versus the Texans being 10 of 17. It was 33 minutes to 27 in favour of Texans in time of possession. Like, everything that should be in their favour was in their favour. Somehow the Chiefs have 5 red zone trips despite only having 14 first downs. I mean, it's absolutely baffling. 2.3 yards per rush. Everything's in the Texans' favour. They only had 1 turnover, the Texans. It's not like they were giving the ball away left, right and centre like we were. This is an absolute steal by the Chiefs.
It really is, and it just goes to show, like, I know, well, I'm going to have to say this every bit for all the other games we look at, because, I went 0 for 4 picking this week. I picked the loser in every game, I think. I'm like, so whatever I predict for the championship games, pick the other way, put a bit of money on, you're probably going to make a bit of money.
Do a reverse parlay. So then either your predictions are all right or you get a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm probably going to have to. Really use the money. So it's just, Chiefs got to do Chiefs things, especially when they're looking at the box score. I didn't see it personally, so I'll probably have to go back and actually see it. But on the box score, the reason I've got 2.3 yards of rush is because their punter suddenly decided to have a minus 18-yard run.
Yeah.
The hell? So they've even won with that happening. Just dark arts. That's why I hope it's the Bills, because someone needs to put an end to this. 7 pass straight. It's about to be 8 now, isn't it?
I think that the minus 18 yards is the safety which they took at the end of the game.
Okay.
To ruin everybody's money lines as well, just to make it worse. The money
it was a 9.5 spread.
Yeah, it was a 9.5 spread, and it put it down to 9. There were a lot of unhappy bettors out there with what they did there.
That's nuts. Yeah, so they went Mahomes minus 4-0, Mahomes minus 5-0, and then Erasure ran into end zone minus 18 yards. They lost 23 yards on the drive. They started off with a gain of 4 as well. It's good effort. It's good effort indeed. Right, let's move on. Rams at Eagles, and low key was a entertaining game. Actually, I think it was a bit back and forth. It was in the balance. Rams looked like they had it for a little while. Then the Eagles looked like they had it for a little while. Stafford had a good day-ish. Oh, I feel bad saying that really because he was absolutely hammered. 26 of 44, 324 and 2 touchdowns, no picks for him. Jalen Hurts looked atrocious. 15 of 20 for 128. He did have a bad knee injury in there and was hobbling around for a little while, was particularly immobile, suffered a safety as well because he just couldn't escape. Kyren Williams had a good day running the ball for the Rams, 21 of 111, including for him 19 of 106. But Saquon went prime Saquon, 26 for 205 and 2 for him. And then Jalen on the ground, 7 for 70 and a touchdown before he got injured. And then I don't think he rushed again. I don't think he did. Rams in the air, touchdowns by Higbee and Colby Parkinson. But Nakua, 6 for 14 for 97. But that 37-yarder he caught was amazing. And then Demarcus Robinson deserves a shout-out too. He was only 3 of 7 for 74. But the 48-yarder where he took it out of the defender's hands really did kind of keep the game interesting for a while. There was 2 fumbles by Philly, which they lost 1. No, they didn't. They didn't lose 1, sorry. Whereas Stafford fumbled twice and Kyren Williams fumbled once, and they lost both. No, Williams recovered 1, Stafford 1, and they lost 1 Stafford 1 and 1 Kyren 1. I'll get that right. So Rams had 2 fumbles, which were both recovered by Philly in key moments, which really hurt them. Otherwise, 7 sacks by the Rams and 5 sacks by Philly. It was an incredible defensive game in the end somehow, despite the fact that there was plenty of offense in there for both teams, one on the ground, one in the air. Mad game, boys. And I think a lot of Lions fans didn't really want either team to win this game, but somehow it was somewhat interesting, especially when the Eagles scored that long touchdown by Saquon to completely make the game dead. They miss a PAT, the Rams go and score, and then I think the Rams got the ball back again, maybe? No, or did Philly kill the game? At least at some point it got interesting at the end again.
I mean, what a day for the Commanders. These two just absolutely killed each other, and now they're going to be able to peck the remains of the Eagles. Like, how nice is it to have an intact, healthy defensive line? Because that's what these two had. And how good did those defensive lines look? A dozen sacks on the day for both teams. And for the Rams, that's impressive because that Philly O-line's pretty damn good. But highlight of the day certainly was Jared Verse throwing Jalen Hurts into the spinneroonie because he threw him down so hard he was spinning on his back on the ground. Like, that is vintage Booker T that Jared Verse forced him to do there. But I mean, Ash is smiling his ass off because the Florida State boys showed out and they absolutely wrecked one of the best D-lines in the league. Braden looked pretty good. Jared looked pretty good. I mean, defensively, it was lovely game to watch.
Yeah, and not to rag on obviously our game, but shows that even if a team knows that you're going to be running the ball, you still can do it. Saquon breaking the curse that's happened in history where you get 200 yards against a team, you face them again in the playoffs and they do fuck all. Like Barry's one of them. Does another 200 yards. But Saquon himself has 500, 600 yards of offense against the Rams this season. It's insane. But yeah, just that's the sad thing is you had both teams beat up at each other. Neither looked that great. Just, yeah. It's painful. It was painful to watch in a way because you watched it and you're like, oh yeah, like it was this week. If we brought a B game against either of these teams, we probably would have won and we'd be going to the big dance. But instead, I'm going to be sat either in a Nottingham beer keller or Nottingham dive bar with my best friend watching the Super Bowl instead of, trouncing up in Birmingham, getting absolutely smashed with you all.
Yeah, I mean, this also affected the quality of the game because, like, both quarterbacks had injuries. Stafford had his rib injury, Hurts had his injury, and that affects the quality of the game. Like, you could tell both quarterbacks playing hurt. because there's just no protect. Like, that's a dozen sacks. That's not including the umpteen amount of hits they took. Like, say Stafford strip sacked twice, and like you could tell these were just two beaten up QBs. Eventually, Philly remembered, yeah, oh, actually, we'll give the ball back to Saquon again, and we'll do that. And Kyron Williams did well for the most. He had a 100-yard day, but yeah, just the defense has killed both quarterbacks, and then the passing game suffers, and it really showed.
It did, yeah.
We on to the next one?
No,
Yeah,
we're
now,
just
yeah.
finishing off the Eagles one.
Cool. Yeah, both quarterbacks, like you say, got killed, and it was mildly entertaining for that, to be honest. I quite enjoyed the defensive affair. I mean, Jared Verse had himself a day. I do think that LA missed Braden Fisk, who was out with a knee injury after his sack, didn't return, and didn't look in great shape on the sideline. But Jalen Carter, man, he had a good day. And then down the stretch, Ajomo and Hunt's sacks were absolute killers. So, yeah, fun one. Anyway, last game is Ravens at Bills. And again, another one that was quite entertaining, but maybe the better side lost. 27-25 in favour of the Bills. Josh Allen had 127 yards passing, but they did have 147 on the ground. Lamar had 254, 2 touchdowns and a pick, and they had 176 on the ground, including Henry getting 84 and a touchdown. And Justice Hill, 6 for 52. I say 52, 50 as well, I mean. And then Likely had 4 or 5 for 73 and a touchdown. Bateman really woke up, 4 or 5 for 66 and a touchdown. But this game really turned on a few plays in favour of the Bills. Andrews and Lamar both fumbled the ball and lost it to the Bills. And then Mark Andrews had one other bad play, which was a 2-point conversion for the tie, which he dropped. Which you can see that he slips in the horrible weather, but you still really need to catch that ball, because the Ravens scored with basically the last play, and then that tied to take it to overtime and couldn't bring it in. But defensively, it was so hard for both teams because of the kind of, I don't know, it was almost like a skid pan out there in Buffalo. And suddenly, Buffalo, Kansas City again next week. Boys, what do you think?
Turnovers.
Or Mark Andrews.
Turnovers. That's what it is. And you can see, I mean, Lamar was swearing afterwards. Like, I've never seen Lamar swear in my life. Not in an interview anyhow, but that's what it comes down to in games like that. That against two great teams, you lose the turnover battle. Like, Buffalo just don't turn the ball over. Like, you're praying on a wing and a prayer that someone can punch that ball out, that, Josh Allen's never going to throw an interception again. And, it's tough. But, I think it did live up to its billing. Like, the Ravens were able to get back into it. And, like, why Harbaugh caught the 2-pointer in the third quarter, I don't know. That will haunt him for a long time, because he needn't have done that. Otherwise, it seemed way too aggressive. You don't start taking 2-pointers unless you're like 3 scores down or you're late in the fourth quarter. That's when you start doing that. But, and this brings up the question again now. Like, Baltimore's in a weird place. Like, everyone lauds John Harbaugh and he's a coach and that. We said it earlier. He's like Mike Tomlin. He's living off a Super Bowl that happened a long time ago. 7 years of Lamar, and you've made one AFC Championship game, and that's it. Like, at what point? Like, if you're a Ravens fan, do you enjoy this? Like, is this? Are you okay with this going forward? You've got the league's best offense. You've had the league's best defense since about halfway through the season. And you've messed up again when it really matters. This team can't get over the hump. It's a weird one now. Like, the loser of this was always going to have big questions asked of them. But if I'm the Ravens now, like, something's got to change, because this is just not going anywhere. And they can't waste him forever. So, yeah, it was fun. I don't know whether Bills have shown enough that they can put away the Chiefs yet in a prime time situation. Like, I think it's going to be tough for them. But hopefully they can ruin Taylor Swift's day for a change. We're all hoping for it. I know I've said I kind of want the Chiefs, like the Commanders, to beat the Chiefs in there, but if anyone's going to do it, then we'll let it be them.
Yeah, just poor Mark Andrews. I know he's already got some of the Josh Reynolds treatment already from the fans for dropping a 2-pointer. But as Mark, as Ant kind of referred to, the Ravens dropped the ball figuratively and literally. Like even on that drive where they think they get the touchdown and potentially 2-point conversion to convert it. Tylan Wallace fumbles the ball and has to recover himself. Like they had some very high variance plays, and you just can't win with that, as we knew of ourselves. So if you put yourselves in that hole, you've got to dig yourself out of it, and the Ravens just couldn't, and the Bills were winners here. And yeah, I know obviously there's all the MVP chance and all that. It's already been voted for. Like this was the MVP off. I won't be surprised if Lamar does win it. It's announced that a couple of days before the Super Bowl. But Allen showed why, for me at least, he deserves to win it. But I wouldn't be surprised if Lamar wins it.
Yeah. All right. Let's pick the championship games while we're here. We've got Washington at Philadelphia and Buffalo at Kansas City. Starting with Washington at Philadelphia, the early line is 5.5 points in favour of Philadelphia. Obviously, no news yet on how Jalen Hurts' knee is holding up. Washington come in fairly healthy, but Sam Cosmi is done with for the season with an ACL, and he was probably their best offensive lineman, which is going to hurt. Philly's defense is obviously still a force to be reckoned with. It's in Philadelphia, which can't be overlooked. I see that Philly media people are already giving them the same treatment that the Lions media were doing last week. So they've got that narrative to fight against. And who have you got in this one?
It does kind of feel like they're on an us trajectory from last year. Like, no one expected them really maybe to get that far. And they're coming up against a wily team who's been there and done that. And, I just have this feeling that Philly's going to win. I don't want them to. I've seen the Commanders now. I think the Commanders are a better football team. But, it's at Lincoln Financial. They've got to go there and, it just feels like there's gonna be some plays in this game that just go against them, and it's unlucky, and they probably shouldn't lose it. I wouldn't be surprised if, like us against the 49ers, they go out to a big lead and they're just riding the crest of a wave, and then they just show that inexperience and lose it. I hope the Commanders win. I really do, but I don't know. Something's just pulling me towards Philly, just like in a heartbreaking fashion.
Ash?
Yeah, Philly are going to, unfortunately, I want the Commanders to win it. So in my heart, it's Commanders, but obviously in my head, Eagles. It's just, I know Quinn Mitchell had to go out the game yesterday with shoulder injury, but supposedly that's not bad. He'll be back this week. The Eagles have just got the overall better talent. I know the Commanders arguably the better coach team and have arguably got the better QB right now. But overall, the Eagles' talent is just too much. I don't see them making the mistakes that we did, unfortunately.
I find it really hard to pick this. I feel like I'm on a knife edge with it because I don't think Philly this season would have played a quarterback as good as Jaden Daniels. And they've played him twice and they've split the series. And that's, the other thing is that these teams know each other exceptionally well. And if anything, I think Philly are going in a bit more hurt than Washington are. I'm going to pick Washington. At least just for it to be fun so that we can have a go at each other for being right or wrong. At least taken with the points for sure. Last one then is almost a coin toss. Buffalo at Kansas City. Kansas City favoured by 2 at home. Go with Ash first this time. What do you think?
Again, my heart says one thing, my head says the other. But this time I'm publicly going to say what my heart says. Josh Allen gets one over Mahomes finally. Just finally. Just so we can have something fucking different. And because the Chiefs haven't been as good this year, I know obviously they've turned it on. They turned it on against the Texans, but they had some fortune there, like Texans missing PATs and that, and making some dumb decisions. The Bills didn't look exactly great against the Ravens, but that's the kind of game they needed to win to kind of prove themselves that maybe they can get against the Dark Magic. And they seem to have a bit of luck on their side. Look at the game against us. Look at the game against the Ravens, where obviously they got the turnovers and that. And plus, they beat the Chiefs earlier this season. So I can see them doing it again. Please.
And
See, after the collective disappointment of losing on Saturday and losing Ben on stream today, I just feel like this is a week where I'm not going to get anything that I want whatsoever. I don't know. You just have this feeling that, like, it's hard to call because the Bills should have beaten them last year when they got them. The Bills beat them in the regular season last year, got them at home, still lost. Like, the Chiefs are the Bills' kryptonite when it matters. I know that stats up saying they've split the games between them and stuff, but Kansas City have won any game that ever truly mattered between these two teams, and they always find a way. Mix in with that, the Buffalo are going to have the refs to deal with as well, which just makes it 10 times harder as it is. You just kind of feel a sense of inevitability that we're just going to get the one that we absolutely hate. So I'm going to pick Chiefs for the point of the prediction. Honestly, there is part of me that hopes it is the Bills, but yeah, there's no happy news today.
I'm going for the Bills by 2 scores. I know that Kansas City seem to eke out every single game, but Houston are not a particularly well-rounded team. On offense, they've been pretty putrid this year, and they allowed Houston to have the best of it on offense, apart from a couple of key plays, which really was Houston's problem more than Kansas City's. And then on the other side of it, I just think that Chiefs' offense looks putrid as well. Okay, fine, you get playoff Kelsey, but Bills on defense are a good matchup for this Kansas City offense this year. And a lot of players that hadn't been good last season or weren't there last season for the Bills on defense have really turned up. DeMar Hamlin, literally back from the dead, has been exceptional at safety. And then you've got players like Christian Benford who've really come to life. Greg Rousseau has had a breakout year. These are the guys which are really going to matter. And then in the linebacker position where they might struggle against Kelsey, they've started getting better after getting healthy. Milano has started looking good again. And just at the perfect time, I thought Taylor Rapp looked really good too. Like, these key positions, they're getting there. And for Buffalo, the way they're running the ball right now with obviously Josh Allen, but with Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, and James Cook, that's a great trio to have against this Kansas City team that I'm not sure they can defend the run particularly well.
We said this last year, though. They
Yeah.
had no receivers. They were on the road. The road was going to have to go through them. It was the Bills' year, and they find a way. It's dark magic. Like that's just why it's even when all signs point to a Buffalo win here, it's just like you can't. They pull something out their ass. What I will say is I just pray to God that Steve Spagnuolo gets a head coach job soon, because I am sick and tired of commentators absolutely gagging on him all game. It's like Romo and Allen. Like it becomes sickening. So please, someone give him a job elsewhere.
Yeah. All right, so we've looked at the championship games, we've diagnosed the divisional games and our own games. So the last remaining thing I have, apart from any questions from you guys, please get them in if you want us to chat about anything, is just to talk about where the Lions go from here. And this isn't a season review. This is not what this is intended for. We're going to do a season review next week. We might have some guests, and we're going to do some award nominations next week too. So, Royal the Lions award show, fourth annual, I think, award show will be coming in 2 weeks. We'll announce what the awards that are up for next week as well. But season reviews next week. So without trying to stray into that, is there anything that the Lions boys should be thinking about in terms of ways in which the fans can deal with this in a good way, or I mean, anything that comes to mind on these sorts of themes. Dan Campbell was asked about what he wants in replacement coordinators if he loses both, and of course he's now lost one. He was very heavy on saying that he wanted to be involved in every facet of the offence, which I thought was very interesting. It was almost like he was saying he didn't have enough of a handle on it while Ben was here. And without throwing him under the bus, it did sound like Dan was slightly criticising Ben Johnson in that press conference, which I thought was the first time I've ever seen that from Dan. And then in terms of defence, he basically said, we are a man coverage team. This is who we are. If you don't like it, you're not for us, which I thought was really interesting because there seems to be no flexibility there whatsoever from Dan on those 2 points. Would you change any of that? Looking forward to the future, like what's in your mind at the moment? There's so many ways that this could be taken, so please just run away with it any which way you like.
I mean, for me, is you stay true to yourself. Don't let this defeat change what you're doing here, because at the end of the day, what we need to do now, we need to go away, think about, we need to be sensible with our free agency as we've always been. Just getting the right guys in at the right positions that we need, and then supplementing through another really good draft class. We've got some good picks this year. We can get some more good players in. Just carry on building the roster the way you're doing. And, when it comes to your coordinators, just find guys who fit what you've built here, because people will go, is this season a failure? And yes, technically this season is a failure, but if you look at it from another point of view, like we say about progression every single year, you got 3 wins first year, then you nearly get into the playoffs second year, then you get to the NFC Championship game year 3. This year, 15 wins. First time we've ever got the 1 seed in our history. We have still been a damn good football team who's played some damn good football. These are new barriers that we've broken this year. As far as I'm concerned, that still shows growth as a team, and you've been really sort of hampered by injuries, and there have been some things without your control. Don't doubt what you're doing. If you carry on building this thing the way you have, we're going to be just fine, and we're going to be back for the Super Bowl next year. I think next year is going to be the critical one now, because now that this is a test of our culture. This is a test of grit. Does grit truly mean an end product of a Super Bowl? This is where we've now got to go. Okay, we've suffered a big disappointment. We need to come back in a big way next year, and we need to really make progress getting back up towards there. Can we go the whole way and do it? But you do that by sticking true to the identity you've built here. This loss is not an indictment of grit culture. It is not an indictment of Brad. It is not an indictment of Dan. It is not an indictment of the way we're building this. That is what I will say going forward. I am not wavering in the cause one little bit.
Same, I'm not wavering, even though obviously we've had another kick in the teeth today. But at least we knew Ben was going to go. It's just more the destination and the suddenness of it, not even taking an in-person interview before accepting the job. Offensively, I know because Dan also said he wants, Goff's going to have his hand picking a QB and he wants someone who's got synergy with them. That's going to be internal. That it doesn't matter who it is. It's going to be someone that's in the building. It might be Tanner, though. Tanner might also like going to Chicago with Ben and kind of having that little bit of protection, at least for the first year or so, of not having to call plays, learn a bit more, then do it. But we still got other guys. Scott Montgomery can do it. Well, everyone arguably on the offensive staff as like sort of coaches could feasibly do it. And Hank's obviously he's down between him and Kafka for their job, and Kafka's also up for a couple of for head coaching stuff. So that it might be him, it might be a Randall L who's been there, done that in a couple of schemes. Same with Montgomery. We've got people there that no matter who goes, we've got another guy who should be able to step in and do a very good job as offense coordinator. Defensive wise, I'd love it to be Shep. I'd love it to be T-Dub. I'd love it to be O'Shea Townsend as well. Like, he's obviously getting interviewed by the 49ers to be their DC job. They usually know what they're doing at those. Look at the guys they've had. Salah, DeMarco Ryans, they know what they're doing defensively. So there could work. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind if it's an outside hire. Just sucks that 2 of my top 3 guys for that job outside of the organisation have been hired within the past couple of hours. Obviously, Dennis Allen, seemingly by Ben in Chicago, and then Luaranu by the Colts. Leaves one guy externally for me, which is Ryan Nielsen, the former Falcons DC, who was now was the Jags DC. He's probably getting moved on when they hire their new guy. Runs an attacking 4-3 like we like. Does run a lot of man coverage, but less to the extent that we do. Mixes in a few more coverage schemes. Plus, he knows Townsend, and he has developed some good players like Trayvon Walker had a breakout year under him this year, not living up to the first overall pick, but playing a lot better. There's guys there. We can trust Dan. Like I said, I think I said it last week. Who would have thought when we fired Anthony Lynn that the offense would improve the way it did? Who would have thought when we fired Orby Pleasant and Dre Blythe that would finally get a secondary coach and that would actually be able to do the job? Who would have thought that when we fired John Scott last year, we'd find someone who'd be able to break out all this talent? Dan knows what he's doing coaching-wise. We'll be able to stay up the course. Next year, we should be a lot healthier. Yeah, we might not win as many games as we did this year, but we'll be healthy going to the playoffs and we should be able to make that push a bit further. And the good news is all these depth players that we've had to count on the past couple of years, they've now got experience. If we have to count them next year, they'll be a lot better than they were this year. Look at Kendall Vildor. Who would have thought 12 months ago that we'd be here like, you know what? Kendall Vildor actually wasn't the worst player on the field yesterday. That's an improvement. That's what we can take under our wing. As we kept saying it, we can learn from our mistakes. That's what we do. This time next year, we'll still probably make mistakes, but there'll be new ones at least.
I think that's something I'm going to take from this, is that I think there's plenty of room for improvement in terms of personnel. And I think that we've got the right GM to do that. But we've got to the point where this team is good enough that incremental improvements are really going to make a big difference, because you're talking about going from 85-90% of the capacity of what this team can be, and an extra percentage here or there is what makes you from an elite team into the best team in the NFL. And I do think healthy, the Lions are already the best team in the NFL, and yet I think, there's still more to come in that respect. So as long as you keep drafting well, the sky is the absolute limit for this team. You just, as much as you do all of that, I kind of think you've got to hit it lucky. And the only way that you give yourself the chance to do that is to keep doing this and keep putting yourself in the position where you have these divisional round matchups. Because the more chances you get, the more likely you are to succeed.
I think the one thing maybe, I don't know, maybe Brad has to do is we do maybe have to start getting brutal in terms of some of our more injury-prone guys. Like the amount of injuries we've had this year, player can get injured every single day he likes, but at the same time, we need to try and give ourselves the best chance possible of being able to have a roster that's going to stay healthy long term. And this extends to guys like Iffy and that. If they can't stay healthy, if we're always going to have issues, then, we've got to start getting brutal in that respect, because we've just seen how much of an effect it's had on us this year. So, I would just ask that he maybe just is a bit more careful with that.
Anything else you guys want to chat about at this point? I was having a look for questions and stuff like that, but Grandizer asked whether you're high on Jackson Dart. And
is this because of the Mike Payton thing? Oh no, he won't read our beat writers, will he? You ask Ryan that question. I'm not looking at quarterbacks this year, really, for us. And Ryan's the Ole Miss fan, so I can't say with any given certainty whether I'd like him as a prospect or not. I'm a bit meh.
You like Jack Sawyer, though, don't you?
I love Jack Sawyer.
Yeah, TJ said draft Jack Sawyer. I'd rather play with him than against him.
Again, as I already said, I would draft Jack Sawyer and just tell him and Hutch to go hell for leather with one another. Whoever's got most sacks by the time the game comes around next year gets to take the other one to the game dressed up in his team's attire. They will literally destroy the league, because there's no way either of them will want that to happen. But he's got the attitude ever since Michigan goaded him. Like, he's been he's been acting like the most disrespected player in the world, and he's playing like the most disrespected player in the world. You look at him and they're like, that's someone that they'll have a look. They'll have a look at everybody as they do, but I feel like Dan will like that competitive vigor that he has. And certainly, you could do a lot worse at 28 than that at the minute. Like that'd be fantastic value as far as I'm concerned. People put him in that area of the draft. I don't think he really belongs there. I think he belongs a lot higher. So, you see, a lot of things will change in the next 3 months, but it's certainly one of the areas in which I'd potentially go.
So, Grandizer had a question, and I've lost it in the history of the chat, but I do remember roughly what it said, which was basically the NFC North had the reputation of being the hardest division in football this year, and clearly with a number of wins at 3 teams had that kind of seemed demonstrably true after the regular season. Now with the NFC North 0-3 after the playoffs, do you still feel that way? Do you feel that way that the NFC North is the best division in football?
Yes.
Yeah.
Packers were frauds anyway, but they still won a load of games. We got unlucky, and the Vikings picked the slump at the wrong time.
I mean, isn't it weird that the NFC East is like, contending the championship game? Like an all NFC East game. It's just so weird to think of that as a possibility, but the possibility is a reality now, but I think it is a tough division. It is a very tough division. Again, I think it's just the way things rolled out. I think the Vikings were a little fraudulent in what they did. The Packers were kind of the worst. They lost to really good teams. I think the Packers' schedule helped them. But I still think it's incredibly tough. So yeah, it's certainly up there. I don't think this was a misrepresentation. Sometimes it just happens, right? Like it just happens. Like there's no representatives of the AFC North go into the AFC Championship game, but I still think it's a damn good division.
Yeah. Another question we have in Big Aries, and we're going to do a big show on this topic later on in the cycle, but just briefly now, position pickup preferences in free agency in the draft, anything you want to avoid or really hope happens. So high level, doesn't have to be detailed, but just positions that you're looking at for this off-season generally.
Safety.
I mean, the positions...
There's quite a few good free agent safeties.
Yeah. I mean, just in general, if you're looking for players, you want some more at safety, you want some more at edge, you need some on the offensive line. For me, it's not where you get them. I'm not really fussed whether you get them from free agency or draft. It all comes down to the regular, which is value. Scheme fit, value, who are you getting? It's that means more than anything else. That's what this team does. It doesn't really make splashes and go after the big guys. It goes out and gets the right guys. So I'm not fussed where we get them, just as long as we do get them, and I trust that they will. So yeah. Seems a bit of a non-answer, but that's the way we do it. Like they don't go, oh, we need a safety in free agency, not the draft. They'll go, where can we get the best value for one? And they'll do it that way.
True.
I mean, I think an underrated need is nose tackle for me.
Yeah.
Just with Reader, I'd love to be able to rotate with him. At the other DT spot, can we bring back Levi is a massive question. Hopefully we can. I don't really care about the moniker of big end. I just want another end. Someone on the defensive edge room. If he happens to be Hutch's build, that's fine if he's that combative. And Sawyer's the same sort of build as Hutch, right? Ish.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, like 6'6", 260, something like that.
He is 6'5", 260.
Yeah, I was pretty close.
Yeah.
If you can get two players of that sort, as long as they have the right sort of grit mentality and can hold up against the run, you don't need a 6'6", 6'7", 290-pounder to be on that big end edge. If they've got the right mentality, I want a guy like Hutch on the other side. Doesn't have to be that explosive, that guy that you can only get in the top 5 of an NFL draft, but someone who can hold up that end who does have a bit of both. That's good for me. Sam linebacker's a big one, I think, because I don't know whether Derek's coming back.
Yeah.
He seems to he's locked in to wanting to be here on social media, but whether it happens or not is another question. I think X wide receivers got to be up there too. Like, I think the likelihood of Tim Patrick coming back is low.
I mean, at worst, you do need backup for Barnes as well. So there's no reason you can't get another guy as well, because as we've seen, when Barnes goes down, there's literally no one on this team who can do his job. So if you're gonna if you're gonna say you still want to use that position, then you've got to invest in that position. I mean, how you do it, whether there's a vet out there who can do it for you, or whether there's a guy in the draft who you think you can train long term to do it. At least you've got someone there who has the attributes and the skill set to be able to do it. So I still think you need to put that on your list, even if Barnes comes back. We can't just have one guy who just is redundant. So,
so Auntie's advocating for Jihad Campbell as our second round pick. Then make a note of that.
I like Jihad Campbell. I think he's a good player.
I mean,
I think there's a lot of good players. There's a lot of good players I like in this draft. But we need to create depth at the position if it's going to be a centerfold. Obviously, it depends whether Glenn leaves, who comes in, what they want to do, whether they want to use that position or not. So I think you kind of have to see the coaching spectrum play out first, I guess, before you get really specific. But like I say, we need help on there. We need help from somebody who can get to the damn quarterback, whether it be an edge, be an off-ball linebacker, Sam, whatever. We need to build depth in those positions, because having no Iffy and Barnes this year for the most part killed us, because they're the two guys who do it outside of our D-line.
Yeah.
We've got no one else.
Need another guy like that for sure. Big Aries says, I was thinking D-team free agency and draft an edge. So, yeah, thinking kind of along the same lines as us all, really. I think our needs are obvious. Guard has got to be up there too, but we've talked about that before. A lot of people have had cornerback on that list, and I get it. But I think in terms of cornerback, I think it would have to be free agency if Carlton Davis doesn't come back. You drafted 2 last year. Yeah. You've already got a Meek. You've already maybe can bring back someone like Mosley again. I'm not saying you should, because I know what happened with injury and that wasn't great. But, I mean, you can get someone of the caliber of him when we signed him in the first place or something like that. But you need a veteran head in the room, not a rookie.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the issue. So it does hinge on Carlton, because I can see Dorsey and Vildor coming back, especially Vildor, because he's our starting gunner most of the time. It's just, I think people are saying corner because, as we've seen again this year, you can't have too many that can start for you, because it's one of the most easily injured positions. Like, ever since this regime's come in, we've had to really dig through the mud sometimes. Like, look at how have I already forgotten his name? I feel really bad. Jerry Jacobs, of course. Jerry, in the space of a season, goes from being a UDFA who just makes the roster as a gunner to then being thrust into action week 10, week 11 as a starting outside corner because every fucker in front of him's injured.
I think that's what you're hoping for. That's what you're hoping for. You like the Vildor Dorsey type roles. You're kind of hoping maybe you can find a young rookie who can come in and do that for them, who has the potential to move up to be a first teamer in the long run. Not having starters, because having Rakestraw, but obviously year 2 with Rakestraw, you want him to be involved and playing a lot. Obviously, you want Terrian to continue playing a lot. If Carlton comes back and a Meek certainly earned his fair share of snaps there, you've got a lot of mouths to feed. So ideally, you want some of them lower level rookies in who are sort of in the background, building their way up and making that depth there, who could potentially be better than Vildor and Dorsey on the first team. That's where we need somebody. So, and Brad really does well in free agency with it, or undrafted free agency, etc. So, you see with that. I don't know, are there any of them on the retained? I saw the futures lists out. You kept anyone on there at corner who's young and
so the futures list at the moment for the Lions, apart from re-signing Maurice Norris, DB, we have signed to a futures contract linebacker Abraham Beauplan, centre Kingsley Aguakun, quarterback Jake Fromm, safety linebacker Deron Gilbert, safety linebacker Eric Hallett, tackle Jamarco Jones, wide receiver Tom Kennedy, DT Chris Smith, safety Lawrence Strickland, DB Stanley Thomas Oliver, and edge Isaac Ukwu. I've got one of them wrong, I'm sure. No?
It was Hallett is a safety slot corner.
Close
That's why I
enough.
shook my head. It's close enough, yeah. But yeah. Plus, there's guys on our IR. Like I know Tom's just putting on Discord about Nate Lynn. There's someone I'm definitely bringing back. You know how much I liked him on when we drafted when we got him. When we did our UDFA show, I was like, this is a guy who could definitely stick around. You got him. Great. Our lads has changed, so I can't see IR list. Thanks a lot, bastards.
Yeah. Oh well. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All right. I think we're going to draw this one to a close here. Just in terms of our schedule for the future. For the moment, the college podcast continues. At some point, we normally let that slip away in favour of draft stuff, but it's all up in the air with what that happens, and obviously that's up to Ant and Ryan to see how that goes. But that will continue for now, and we're going to get started on our draft prospects shows very shortly. We're going to have a season review, an award show, probably a Super Bowl review, and then we're into it with draft prospects. The Combine will come and go. We've got the Senior Bowl obviously coming up, and then we'll do some mock draft shows and a betting show just before the NFL draft happens, and then the NFL draft will be away. April 24th is day one, so we are only 3 months away already, which is mad. This will be the best research show on the internet. It will be excellent. And of course, when we actually get into the draft show itself, 31 other guests from 31 other teams, and then potentially some Lions guests as well to bring in terms of maybe some media guys or what have you. It's going to be a really great period of time. So this sucks right now, but we're going to have some great stuff to go forward with. We need some nominations for the awards, which we're going to do. So we're going to do that next week. So we're going to have an internal discussion about what the awards names are going to be. And then we're going to ask you guys for some suggestions for those. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. Boys, anything else I need to say about the schedule? Don't think so. Cool. Right. We're going to call it a show there. The Lions continue to break records. And, you know, we'd never broken, 12 wins before? And we got 15 this year. It's been a shit time to be a Lions fan in the last 20 years, in the last 50 years, 60 years. This feels shit right now, but we'll be back. We will be back with this team. It's too good to not put ourselves in a position where we can do something like this again. Keep the faith. In Brad and Dan we trust. This is going to be a great off-season going into another great 2025-26. For now, we'll see you for the off-season. Let's go Lions, one pride.
Pride.
Recording stopped.